When Gavin Newsom speaks, he finds it very moving, as in it makes him want to move. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. Church speaking of mandates, you get it on now. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend. Love that about you. Carol Leifer's coming in later. She's a legend. Elon Gold's living his legend out right now in studio. Elon's got a stand-up special. Elon Gold's 40-minute comedy special.
Yeah,
it's available.
Taped at the Laugh Factory.
Available as we speak. On YouTube. Always good to see you, my friend.
Can I say, first of all, thank you for having me. Mm-hmm. When I think about all the Jewish comedians you could have had as a guest, and I heard it was down to me and Zelensky.
It was.
It was down to me.
If you were 5'7", you could pass yourself off as Zelensky type.
I just want to apologize for wearing sweatshirt in the show. I should have put a suit on.
Yeah, we'd asked that you put a suit on.
It's so disgusting because he comes into the show and he wears a pink sweatshirt and he looks so horrible. You know, you got to put a suit on when you meet the president. You got to put a suit on. You know, and I'm not asking for like a Canali or a Hugo Boss. Just go into Zara's. Go into Zara's. You know, the pants, they could be $59. The jacket, matching jacket, could be $79, and you have yourself a suit. You look so horrible.
I tried to go to Westfield Century City Mall, and I went and I couldn't find parking spots. So I just drove around the block, and then I didn't.
You know, it strikes me. It strikes me that, and I just thought of this, but Chris Rock. And I'm not saying this because you do a Chris Rock, because I have no idea if you do a Chris Rock. But
right.
Chris Rock, when he does stand-up, he does it like Trump when Trump is sort of telling a story. So Chris Rock, he'll go, women love to snoop through your shit. They love to snoop. Women love to snoop.
And he'll repeat it 9 times.
And Trump will do the thing where he said he's doing a State of the Union or whatever, and he's like, this young girl is playing volleyball, and there's a male on the other side, and she gets hit in the head with the ball, and she's never seen anything like it. There's nothing like it. Like it's weird like side. It's like weird side talk, and it's like, yes, she got Chris Rock. Women snoop. Now do the joke.
Yeah.
Don't do 3 women be snooping and then do the joke. And Trump, this chick got beamed with a volleyball hit by a dude.
Right.
That's the story. I know she's never seen anything like it. She was 14.
Right.
And she never played a dude. And everyone who gets concussed by a volleyball has never seen anything like it.
No.
Because it's only one time you get destroyed by a volleyball.
Yes. You're making 2 points.
I made it into my middle age without ever being devastated by a volleyball. You can find Trump in that hit with the volleyball, and he just sits there.
Yeah.
Chris Rock. A 1 hour Chris Rock set would be 14 minutes
if he stopped repeating.
Didn't set every joke up 9 times.
You're making 2 observations, but my favorite one is the first one. The volleyball thing's very good, but the observation that Trump is the Chris Rock of presidents.
He is.
That the repeating, like when he talked about just the other night, he talked about the mice. He goes,
you know, you look at the transgender mice, and they're not doing very well. You know, they don't know. Am I Mickey? Am I Minnie? What am I? I don't know what to be.
His 2-hour speech could be 36 minutes if he stopped. Yes, she was hit with a volleyball. Right. Now what?
And it was so bad. You know, you look at it, and she was hit with a volleyball. It was such a volleyball. And you look at volleyballs, and I know a lot of volleyballs, and this volleyball was so. And it's the same with Rock. The girl was hit with a volleyball. Hit with a ball. A volleyball. Hit with the ball. It's like,
we could do this in 3 minutes.
I've never said it to the man.
That's fascinating.
But Chris Rock could take a 1 hour special and trim 67.
By the way, when people ask me who's your favorite, I say Rock, and yet we just got into an email fight.
You and Chris Rock.
Yesterday. Not really a fight. I sent him... You don't understand this because you don't do impressions, but people who do you can't relate to this.
Yes.
Okay, I don't mean to condescend and say what you do and don't understand.
Too late, but go ahead.
Fine. You don't understand a lot of things.
Yes.
But impression people. I don't call myself an impressionist. I'm a comedian. I do impressions. I was born with a gift, and that's it.
That is.
Yeah, that's it. And
No,
I use
you
it.
can do it. You can do it or you can't.
Yeah.
It's like some people can take their tongue and roll it.
Right.
I can't.
Right. That being said, when you stumble on an impression, okay, it's the most exciting thing.
Stumble onto a new one.
Correct.
Versus stumbling in the middle of one.
No, what I'm saying is,
When you say stumble on an impression,
Yes.
that means you could be fucking up an impression by stumbling
okay, fine.
in the middle of it.
How about happen on? When you happen upon.
Happen upon.
When you happen upon an impression.
In the forest?
Yes.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. And then all of a sudden you go, oh my God, I can do this guy.
Yes.
And when they're obscure, anyone does a Trump, it's like
Right.
boring and
Right.
annoying.
Right.
I remember in the old days, it was when we were growing up, it was Reagan. Everyone did a Reagan.
Right.
Or a Johnny Carson.
Right,
Everybody had a
right.
Johnny Carson. Okay.
Right.
When you happen upon a new impression that's more of an obscure one, like I have now, you're not going to believe this, a Tom Papa. I have a Tom Papa.
I got news for you. You got a little Tom Papa in you just
I
sort of
think so.
naturally.
I don't know,
so.
bud. Genetically related.
Well, guess what's crazy about this?
Yeah.
And I wasn't. This wasn't planned either. And I sent this to Rock. I got so excited. It was like 2 a.m. All of a sudden, I started talking like Papa. So I sent it to Jeff Ross, to Chris Rock, to all my friends, Ari Shafir. I was like, guys,
sure,
I
all
have
the
a
greats.
Papa. All the
Yeah.
greats. Right?
So, well,
You wanna hear
Papa
it?
also has. Some people have a tone, and then some people have a tone and a cadence.
Correct.
And Tom Papa has a cadence, which is equally as difficult to mimic. I'm not taking anything away from it. It's his cadence.
Well, guess what else he does? Repeats.
Yeah.
You're right.
So here, I don't remember how to do it, so I recorded it, and
right.
then I'll see if I
Let's
can
hear
mimic it. Let's hear. Let me see.
Figured out how to do Tom Papa.
Okay, Tom Pop. Here we go.
Figured it out. You have to talk condescending and a little gay. It's a little gay. You gotta be repetitive. Repetitive.
Anyway, I'm doing
It's true. That's what it is.
it. And it's the same Rock and Trump. And I'm like, I send it to everyone. I was so happy about it.
You should be.
And then Rock sends me back like, cool, congrats, man. And I'm like, congrats. I wasn't sending this as if, hey, I cracked the code. You're going to be so happy for me. I was just like, isn't this funny how stupid his cadence is?
Yeah.
Even though we love him.
It's a smiling smug.
It's just fun. When comedians make fun of each other, it's with love unless we hate the guy. Everybody
Yes.
loves Tom. So I
yes.
go, isn't this the silliest cadence? It's a cadence. And he repeats it. A cadence. A cadence. It's almost Carlin-esque. Remember Carlin? He used to go,
Yes.
Yeah.
Come down.
I'm gonna come up and then come down. Oh, also Leno. Leno.
He goes up?
Yeah, he goes up and then it comes down. Oh, this is good. Hear about this? Hear about this, baby.
You can do Leno.
But who does a Papa?
Nobody does a Papa. Nobody does a Papa.
All right.
And no, it is true. Look, all praise Elon, because when you said, you do a Tom Papa, I was like, okay, but what's that sound like? But when you did it, I was like, oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And that's when it's exciting.
You know what it's like? It's like what Tom Papa of impressions is like a massaging chair where you see, you're at the airport and they got the chair and there's $8,000 and it's at the Sharper Image and you go, who needs a fucking 8,000? And then you sit in it for like 3 minutes. You go, oh yeah, oh yeah, now I need one of these. I feel that way with you and Tom Papa.
You were mad at me for bringing up
I
that
was
I
angry.
have a Papa.
How dare you blindside me with a Papa?
And then it made you so happy.
and then Seinfeld would sound like that. No Papa.
No! Why is he doing a Papa? This is crazy. Oh, Jerry, he's got a Papa. And
No
it's like,
Papa.
a Papa. He's got a Papa. And it's like, it's just the best when you happen upon these impressions.
It's perfect.
You know what I don't do weirdly? Elon Musk. Kyle Dunnigan does it the best, and when I see someone that nails it the first time, people don't realize that impressions are observations, just like any stand-up observation.
Ironic, no Elon for you.
What? No Elon. And then when I see Dunnigan do it, he's been on the show, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I've seen
he's
him
a
on it.
friend
Yeah.
of the show.
Yeah, he's a friend of the show. So am I, by the way.
We have the volleyball speech, by the way. We can.
let's hear it.
I'm going to drift too far away.
Let's hear it.
Now again, he's going full Chris Rock here. Here he goes.
3 years ago, Peyton McNabb was an all-star high school athlete.
By the way,
one of
pause it
best.
there. When I heard Peyton McNabb, I was like, NFL's greatest quarterback. That guy had a cannon for an arm and he could scramble too. You know? But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Athlete, one of the best, preparing for a future in college sports. But when her girls' volleyball match was invaded by a male, he smashed the ball so hard in Peyton's face, causing traumatic brain injury, partially paralyzing her right side and ending her athletic career. It was a shot like she's never seen before. She's never seen anything like it. Never seen. Peyton is here tonight in the game.
Nobody, first off,
Triple down.
if you see a volleyball coming, then you don't get hit by the volleyball. So we've all never seen anything like it because you literally don't see it.
Right.
That's why you get concussed. But I love that he does that little sidebar as if we'd be confused. Like, what happened
Wait,
to the
has
chick with
she
the ball?
seen it?
Hold on, is that bitch dating a volleyball? No, she was
she's
hit.
never seen the volleyball.
She didn't see the volleyball.
Was the volleyball on hinge? Is that where? And then she
Never
swiped
seen
left on the volleyball?
Anything like it.
Yeah. But by the way, unlike Biden, he goes off prompter.
Right.
So that's
Oh,
why.
by the way, this is him on prompter,
Right.
still doing extra sidebar.
But imagine if the prompter said never seen volleyball 4 times.
Never seen volleyball. And he's just reading it. Never seen
chorus.
it. Never saw the volleyball. He didn't say it. She didn't say it. Never saw.
And he's reading still.
I want to hear it one
Let's
more
hear it.
time. I just want to hear the last 20 seconds of
But
it.
he only repeated twice. Usually it's
Yeah, well,
5
he's on
times.
prompter.
Right.
And he's got a fucking speech.
Right.
He's not hanging in with Fox and Friends. You know what I mean?
Never seen the volleyball. Never seen the volleyball. Never
Get
saw
to the
it.
joke. Let's do the joke.
Get to the
What's the
punchline.
joke? A part of the volleyball part.
Yeah, he's still the best.
I know, you're great. All right, here it is, sir.
Partially paralyzing her right side and ending her athletic career. It was a shot like she's never seen before. She's never seen anything like it. Peyton is here tonight in the gallery.
All right. It would be funny if she stood up and was hit by a volleyball. Like if somebody had any sense of humor, they just stand 3 feet away, just out of camera, and she just stand up, just hit her, just beat her, like
And
really quick with a volleyball.
The frame is just the volleyball coming in.
The Democrats were all right with their little fucking ping pong paddles
Right.
and all their nonsense, but if they brought a volleyball,
That would have been so good.
could you imagine?
Can we get serious for a second?
Hold on a second. I'm still
Okay,
exploring.
fine.
Then we got plenty of time
Okay,
to get
fine,
serious.
fine.
Jasmine Crockett. If she brought a volleyball and just stood right out of camera range,
The
and
best.
when she stood up, just beamed her on the head with it.
Yep.
Fox the next day. I mean, can you imagine Hannity that night? Like the explosion,
Yeah.
the explosion
It's such
of
a
anger.
great idea. How
It's
has
a
no one thought of it?
Nobody thought to bring a volleyball.
Yeah, someone vetted the speech, right? And they go, okay, at this point, we'll talk about the kid with cancer. He gets up. At that point, we talk about the girl with the... We throw a volleyball. Like,
Right.
You vet the speech, and then you come up with ideas like
Right.
this.
The kid with cancer, we put the guy in the Grim Reaper robe and he just stands up right behind him. And while everyone is clapping, he just stands there with his
And the
sickle.
kid goes,
you know?
not yet, pal. You know, do some theatrics
something. Yeah.
with it. That is a brilliant idea.
I'll tell you-
Just this. Just
Just
boom.
quick the volleyball.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I learned. Watching that kid who had cancer, and we'll get serious now.
That's what I want to do.
The kid that had cancer had the 13-year-old that had cancer at age 13, riddled with cancer. They call it brain cancer, but it's head cancer. Your whole head has cancer.
Mm-hmm.
That 13-year-old kid, riddled with brain cancer and head cancer with 13 surgeries.
Riddled with cancer. Riddled.
Has a better mustache than Jay-Z. A mogul 50-year-old. That 13-year-old with head cancer has a better mustache than Jay-Z does.
I
That's
agree.
what I
Well,
thought to
I
myself.
believe that's the reason for the cancer, actually.
Really?
Yeah. The mustache grew in too good.
I thought the volleyball. It'd be funny if callback. Elon, the volleyball hits him too.
Hits the kid.
Everyone gets hit with the
The
volleyball.
one that stands up gets hit with a volleyball.
All right.
Trans
This is a
woman.
great idea.
It's a
I'm
great
not kidding.
sketch. We do the chick first. She gets hit with the volleyball. Then this kid stands up. He gets hit with the ball. Then there's the guy who is the injured Iraqi veteran. He's volleyball.
Bingo.
And then we do the callback one where it's like, by the time the fifth person gets clipped with the volleyball, then he's like, and an 86-year-old January 6th protester. No, stand up, Agnes.
Stand
and
up.
she's like, I think I'm good.
Right.
No, stand up. Said,
Right.
I'm fine. I'm fine. She's looking around. That's the callback.
You have the callback. I have the finale.
Let's go.
Trump says, "God bless America." 100 volleyballs.
Everyone is belted with a volleyball.
Yeah.
We go full French farce.
It's like a beach ball thing at the concert. Everyone's doing this. Of course, the Democrats wouldn't hit the volleyball. I can't believe they didn't stand up for this kid. They didn't applaud this kid.
I went over it.
Listen, here, the thing.
Oh, we talked about that?
Yesterday,
no,
yeah.
yeah, but it's a great. No, so what Trump is doing is he trolls these people, right? So, but also do the math. Like, they've been calling Trump Hitlerian and Hitler for 4 years or 8 years or 6 years or whatever. They're calling the guy Hitler. Elon, if you were at a Hitler rally or a Hitler State of the Union and he started talking about a fireman who was severely injured, would you stand up?
For Hitler? The actual,
Well,
the actual. Okay,
the actual
so the scenario
Hitler.
is
Well,
Elon Gold, the biggest Jew on
the
earth,
biggest Jew
is sitting at the Hitler rally, right? And he's going, "Uns wir have." What's the scenario? We have kids with the cancer, and he's brain is the cancer. And now Elon Gold sitting in the audience,
Right.
And this is not Elon Musk, by the way. This is Elon Gold. Does Elon Gold stand up for the kid? He absolutely does.
Wow.
He absolutely does.
Wow, I knew
Because
Elon was
he's-
a hero.
Yeah, because he's standing for the kid, not the Hitler.
Well, all right. I'm
Right?
not defending them, but I'm saying they called the guy Hitler for the
Right.
last few years.
Right.
So it stands to reason they're not going to applaud when Hitler cues them.
That's fine.
That's all I'm saying.
Fine. Right. When Hitler cues him, but you have to look past that and go, we're applauding the kid, the triumph
They
of
don't
this
know
child. They don't have
Here's what Trump does. He
Yeah.
trolls them. He does what Mayhem knows from the combat world. They would always say this in the boxing world. They go, "We're going to drag him into the deep rounds and drown him."
Right.
That's that. No one knew what the fuck they were talking about, but somehow we're going to drag him into the deep rounds. Yeah, I'm going to do that with George Foreman.
Right.
Yeah, he's going to pummel me for the first 8.5 rounds, but then I'm going to get him into the deep water when he's gassed out from concussing me and hitting me with his volleyball hands, and then I'm drowning him. You know what I mean? They thought it was good. But that's what he does. He trolls them because he goes, I'm done with NAFTA, and I'm putting tariffs on Canada, and I'm thinking about buying Greenland and turning it into a golf resort. And they're all like, boo, boo, boo. And I want to eradicate AIDS in Africa. And they go, well, fuck that. Right. And they go, oh, you guys just said you didn't want to do away with AIDS in Africa? And they're like, no, we got trolled. Correct. He's smart. He knows there. And he sets them up. He goes, these people aren't going to stand up and applaud for anything. And they're like, you're damn right, we're not going to applaud for anything.
That's what I said. Yeah,
By the way, that kid.
We have his mustache and Jay-Z's.
Yes.
Mustache.
The cutest little black kid on earth.
Just so you
Better
know,
mustache than Jay-Z.
Oh,
Definitely
wow.
right.
So just so you know, that kid, the original brain cancer kid, was white. And then Trump said, let's make him black, see if they get up for that. If we make him black, maybe they'll get up for that. So they recast the kid, made him a black cancer kid, and they still didn't get up. Crazy.
I told Leno, you brought up Leno. I told Leno.
Yeah.
Now, I'll set you up in a
Okay,
little role
yeah.
play. Leno did not think this was funny when I told this to him. All right. Jay's a great guy, but he's not when he's kind of comedians who laughs along with you.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? And
Correct.
so I did a function with him like 4 weeks ago. Oh, God, maybe it was 5. It was right after the fire. It was like a week after the fire. And I just go, we're like backstage, and I go, Jay, people are lot of people blaming you for these fires.
Already funny, by the way.
Yeah, good.
He goes, well, you can be confused, Jay.
Yeah. Well, what do you mean? What did I have to do with it?
You've heard of, I mean, sure, you've heard people talking, you know? Well, a lot of people think, you set yourself on fire and then you roll down the hill. Oh, God. And he just goes, huh? Yeah, the people saying, you set yourself fire and you roll down the hill, and then now it's out of hand.
Like a
with
snowball.
The winds.
It was a Leno fireball.
Well, when the winds are just right. And he's just like, nobody said that.
You know why? He couldn't handle the gravity of the two things.
Yeah.
Him being set on fire, which was painful to him, and his town burning down.
Yeah.
He couldn't remove himself from either of those and enjoy the hilarity.
He just not a go along with her joke. He's not a yes and guy.
Carolla, I really don't like that one. It really hurts me personally, and I'm not gonna like that. I'm not gonna laugh at that joke.
But Johnny Carson would have loved it.
Oh, he would have loved
Johnny
it.
Carson would have said, "Now that's some good shit. That is some good, wild, wacky stuff."
I
Adam.
can't remember if you do a Seinfeld.
What do you mean you don't remember?
That's right.
What do you mean? I do two Seinfelds, but go
I
ahead.
do. You do too.
Well, there's Serious Jerry, who speaks very arrogantly and
that's
very
right.
slowly, and then there's Yelling Jerry. What are you doing?
There's Serious Jerry.
When there's also Serious Jerry Lewis, which none of your fans under 70 will know. But when Dean and I.
Yeah.
And he got very serious about comedy and about the relationship. And then it was, hi, so there's two Jerrys.
There's four Jerrys, but only two guys. We got quad Jerrys. Holy Christ.
Yeah, but what about Jerry? Why'd you bring it up?
Well, I do. Well, first off, there's the video where Jerry Lewis was being a complete douchebag to the guy who's trying to interview him.
There's only one?
And he did that one, and then he died. So it's like, don't do that to your legacy.
That's why I'm being nice to you today.
Yeah, because you don't want to be a douche and then you die.
I don't know what's going to happen on the 101 on my way home.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Seinfeld, I was telling the story that Seinfeld's a big Porsche guy, huge Porsche guy.
I think he has like 50 of them.
He has a lot of them. He sells them on occasion. He just tried to sell his 917 Porsche, Steve McQueen, Le Mans, 1969. They got to like $25 million at the auction. He didn't take it. Nobody knows. I can't figure out. No one can figure out whether there's some. Occasionally with auctions, things are a little. They can be a little under the table or a little. There can be the hint of foul play or something.
Well, there's a Democrat with the paddle.
Right, but you don't see half the bidders. They're on the phone, they're on the internet, that you don't see them.
Sometimes the auction house will bid up the thing to the point where they want it and then see if anybody jumps in after that. We don't know what happened, but the point is this.
Well, I thought the reserve wasn't met, like the level.
They don't. You would assume it didn't meet the reserve, which is the minimum money that Seinfeld would take for the 917. That's the reserve. But they don't tell you what the reserve is. But I will tell you that if it legitimately gets to $25 million organically, and some guy bids $25 million and it's a no sale, when the auction is finished, the dude who did $25 million, Seinfeld, and the auction guy go meet in the back.
Oh, I never thought of that.
And they go meet in the back and they go, look.
Cut out the middleman.
Well,
it's like when you do your Uber driver.
No, they don't.
You want just $100 in
No,
cash.
this isn't that. This is not cutting out the middleman. This is the auction guy. And Seinfeld and the paddle guy. And then they go to the back and they sit down and they go, look. You obviously you want the car. You raise your paddle at $25 million, and then with the premium 10% or whatever, it's another $2.5 million we're tacking on this thing. So we're at $27.5. Now, Jerry, you wanted 30 for it, but
give me 30. It's only 3 more.
But listen,
do the math.
So what the auction house will do is go, look, you got 2.7 worth of commission on this.
Right.
How about we knock 7 off of that? We'll get to 2. Now you're at 27, Jerry. You're still at 30. Maybe we could meet at 28.5, and we'll reduce our whatever. Jerry,
how do you know this happens?
Go to auction. Been auctions, and it couldn't not happen. If you think about it, you go, how could it happen where there's a guy who goes, I'll give you $25 million for the car, and you go, fuck off, I wanted 30. And you go, all right, see you later. And the guy just leaves. The guy who runs the auction is going to run out and grab that guy and go.
Just to get the commissions.
Yeah.
Well, when he walks out the door, they got zero.
Right
now.
Are you saying, I didn't even know this, are you saying that if someone puts a bid at a certain number and no one raises their paddle to that number, the auction stops? I thought they just take that number and it's just below what they wanted. I didn't know about this whole.
You may offer your car with no reserve. And that means
I didn't know this.
89 Chevy Blazer.
Thank you. I do a little bit better than that.
Okay. 91 Chevy Blazer. You're 91. That means that while Blue Book may say it's worth $6,300, this thing could stall out at $1,500, and someone's going to take your car that's worth $6,000 for $1,500. If it. But what you would probably do is you would go $5,000 is my minimum. Like that's the reserve, because I can't. There's guys selling $2 million cars. There's a chance someone gets it for $800,000, and you are fucked. So they'll set the reserve. Now, the auction house will argue with you over the reserve. They'll go, come on, 91 Chevy Blazer, over 100,000 miles on it, $5,000. That's, come on, let's do 3,500 on the, because they want to make the sale and you want to keep it high, and so on and so forth. But yes.
There must be an appraiser for these items, though.
Yeah, the auction house has appraisers, and they're not always spot on, because who knows what Jerry
True
Seinfeld's
value.
917 from the movie Le Mans that Steve McQueen's production company owned in 1969. That's a one of one,
right?
So there is no comps.
So is this a real story?
This is a real story, and I don't know what happened to that car.
Do we have footage of any of this?
We can look it up. Oh, there's footage of it.
It's fascinating.
But I will say this as well. I went to Rensport, RE, and the biggest Porsche gathering in the world, or whatever. It was at Monterey, and entered my. Had my Porsche 935 there, which Paul Newman drove at Le Mans. It's another car of the story. I drove it there 3-4 years earlier and won the Weissach Cup, or the trophy, or whatever. It's in the next room. Mayhem, I was going to ask you to throw a little carnauba wax on that plaque after the show. Yeah. But I said to Seinfeld, when we're standing in the Porsche pavilion, and I was staring at all his cars that he had brought out there, I said, Jerry, my 935 that won Le Mans with Paul Newman is right over here underneath. They built a gazebo for it. They built a gazebo for the car. It's over that way. Yeah, that's the car, but that's not from that thing. But I said, Jerry, my 935 is about 100 feet behind us over here in this gazebo, if you want to check it out. And he was like, I'm good.
Really?
I go, what's that about? I go, yeah, but seriously, want to go check it out? And he's like, not really. And I was like, it's right over here. It's a 935 that won.
You love Porsches.
We are here at Rensport. We're in the infield of Laguna Seca with 500 Porsches, because you want to see Porsches.
Right.
He's like, all right.
That's so, because that's arrogant, Jerry. That's arrogant, Jerry. That'd be like.
And then he was, I mean, it was
like going to a strip club and this girl sitting next to you go, you want to see my tits? Let's just walk over there and look at my tits. I don't want to see your tits.
To be fair, he said, people would always gather, but autograph, people want to say hi.
Fine, but you're not people. You're a fellow person.
If we went over there, Jerry, then people would gather around.
Okay, fine.
But they're gathered around us here. We're still in the middle of the fucking Rensport here.
It's be a gathering.
Then he went on a podcast. I think Spike Ferrison's maybe, and he gave the most Jerry answer ever. It's like, what do I need to see a 935 for? What's with the 935? It's like, which you can do about anything ever, any subject, anytime. And it's like,
what do you need it?
Right, but Jerry, you're at Rensport.
Right.
We're
Clearly
in
you're
the infield,
interested in this.
and we're standing next to 3 of your Porsches.
Right.
So I don't know. What do you need? Yeah, if I took my mom from North Hollywood and dropped her in the middle of Rensport, she'd be like, "What are we doing here? I want to go home and watch.
Let's get a sandwich.
I want to get a sandwich, but."
Right.
But we're here, and you're here because you worship Porsche, and I have one of the most exotic Porsches on the planet.
I don't want to walk there. I'm here. I like it here. I don't know how it is over there.
We have it.
It could be bad there.
We have him explaining.
Really? I gotta hear this.
It's precious. It's good stuff.
Yeah. I talked with Adam Carolla.
Oh, yeah.
Who wanted me to see his Paul Newman 935, but there was so many people around, and there was so much, interaction going on. It was kind of difficult for me to maneuver, and he kept pushing me. "You've got to see my 935." I go, "Why? Why do I have to see it? What will happen in your mind that will be so great? Will it be me going, 'Wow, cool car,' and then what?"
Hold on, pause. It's very Tom Papa-y, too. All right, so let's examine. What is going to go on if I see your car?
Right.
Well, fucking nothing. I don't know what is going on now. We're looking at everyone else's cars.
Right.
So what do you mean what's going to go on? And then
I don't need to see another Porsche. Another Porsche. I don't need to see it. I don't want to see it. But they are on the, Tom opens for him, so they pick up the cadences. But this is a crazy thing.
We'll play it a little more.
Wait,
hold on. I'm going to turn the air on it here.
I can't believe he makes you the bad guy in this story.
It's insane. It's insane. Keep talking.
I'm just glad that you're not bitter about it, Adam. It's fine. Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
And now you patch things up with old Jerry Seinfeld.
It's always fun to be talked about, It's like, but except when you're the butt of the joke,
How
when
do you
you're the
think Jerry
bad guy.
Seinfeld would apologize to Adam?
Because he didn't see it as, he doesn't see this as bad. He's doing a bit. He's using you.
I don't know. I do not care.
Right.
I really don't. I was insistent because
for him, not for you.
Well, I was going. Yeah. The car's right here, and he's like, "Yeah, well, I'm good for now,"
Right.
And I was like, so 10 minutes would go by, and I'd go, "But you really want to see? We're going to see the car, right?" And he's like, "No, And then 20 minutes would go by, and I'd go, "Okay, we were hanging out." And I go,
right.
"But now maybe we'll go see the car." And he's like, "No, I'm good." And I was like, it was like we were standing in front of a movie theater, and the biggest blockbuster in the world was inside the theater, and I was just standing out front going, "But you want to go in, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, I'll stand here." And I'm like, "Okay, that's funny. I'll get some popcorn, but I'll meet." But you're going in, right? And he's
No,
like,
just want some popcorn.
It's like, play it again. It's funny. And then
so
he has
crazy.
an answer, which is equally as insane. Because Spike, I think Spike, who I like.
Nice guy. Funny guy.
Does the problem with everybody, the problem with politicians
Here's the problem
too,
with everyone.
is look, I don't care. Look, Jimmy Kimmel hosts the Oscars, makes a lot of money, and has a successful show and makes a lot more money than I do, and could probably do stuff for me. But if Jimmy Kimmel was telling this story, I'd go, "Are you fucking nuts, Jimmy? Go see the fucking car. This is 100% on you. This isn't on the other guy. What the fuck are you doing? That's insane." Like, I would just say that to the person. The problem with Seinfeld is, like, you don't really want to push him that hard, but you might kind of go, like Spike goes, "Well, you have a 935, Jerry. What?" Okay, we'll listen to it. It's funny. You can start at the top.
You don't want to prod the king. That's the problem.
I would prod the king if I was friends with him.
Spike should have.
Yeah. I talked with Adam Carolla.
Oh, yeah.
Who wanted me to see his Paul Newman 935, but there was so many people around, and there was so much, interaction going on. It was kind of
Terrible
difficult
excuse,
for me
by the
to
way.
maneuver, and he kept pushing me.
Well, hold on.
Terrible excuse. There's always people around.
We were not in his trailer, his air-conditioned trailer, enjoying a Sam Adams, and me going, "You want to come out and see?" Because he'd go, "It's too hectic out there." We were standing in the middle of the Porsche pavilion with people surrounding us. Now, I get you start moving and people start gravitating, but we're already there and we're standing in the middle of it. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, continue.
By the way, can I go back 1 second? Can I go back to the strip club analogy?
Please.
Can you keep your shirt on? There's people to my left, people to my right. I don't want to say it, the tits. It's crazy.
You can find a picture of that car at they gave it a pagoda. They gave it a pavilion. They gave it its own.
That's how special it was.
Space.
And you would think for him, it would be in his best interest to look at the car. Not for you. You've seen the car.
Seinfeld was right at this time. It's literally a week before this time. The owner of the first Porsche 935 race car, the test car. It was a historic car. He sold it 10 minutes before this conversation, but he owned a 935. You could walk from here to New Jersey, and you could go into every mall and every bookstore and every university, and you could ask every human being that you came upon, do you own a 935? And the answer would be no. To every human being between here and New Jersey, if you stopped everywhere and poked your head in. If you poked your head into Porsche dealerships and asked every person who worked there and every mechanic, do you own a Porsche 9? The answer would be no. So there's only two guys in that entire place that own a 935, and they're both comedians.
Right.
All right, we'll play it. We'll play it again. Sorry.
Maneuver, and he kept pushing me. You've got to see my 935. I go, why? Why do I have to see it? What will happen in your mind that will be so great? Will it be me going, wow, cool car? And then what? Then nothing.
The big winter boot came down.
So you said, I'll just say it now.
The winter boot of reality.
You'll say, I'll say it now.
Yeah.
Nice car. It's a nice car.
Yeah, great. You're great.
But it is weird, isn't it, kind of cool to meet another guy with a 935? Look, right over there, there's a 935.
I don't own that car anymore.
You don't?
No.
That car's been sold.
Sold.
That was the one out at Gooding, right?
That's right.
I won't even look at them.
All right, so he owns a 935, the premier 935 for 20 years or 10 years or something, sells it 6 days earlier, and then his answer is, I don't want to see a 935. Well, you have a 935. No, I don't. Sold it. Hey, back to you.
That hurt me to hear him talk about that.
Yeah. Want to see some huge titties? Your wife has huge titties. Right. No, we got divorced.
Yeah.
No, I want to see titties.
Seen them. Had them for 20 years. Plus, there's people around.
Sold the 935.
The whole thing.
You think he'd miss his 935?
Yeah. I want to. Yeah, that's nostalgia for him. How about Paul Newman? That's a cool thing, too.
Listen, here's the answer. I don't care. I'm always amused. I'm almost never offended.
Right.
So I don't care. I just think the process is kind of nuts,
You're
right?
too cool, hip, and funny to be the butt of another comedian's joke. You understand? That's the problem. That's really I'm not kidding. That's really what's at play here, the psychology. Because I put myself in that. I'm like, if Jerry's ragging on me, I thought he liked me. You know, he respects our comedy. So we shouldn't be the way he's talking about you. That shouldn't be us. Right. It should be other people. It should be other people. Maybe if you said, and Paul Newman's in the trunk still, maybe then he'd be like, oh, this I want to see.
Well, I would call it the boot because it's a rear engine car, and he'd be up front. Him's hair. There you go. Man, when you leave the house, you check your phone, you check your wallet, you check your key. How about your hair? How about your look? If you're experiencing a little hair loss, well, you may not feel as confident as you could, and that's where Hims comes in. Get your confidence back. Hims provides a range of doctor-trusted hair loss treatments, chewable, oral, spray, serum. It's all there. Do it all from the comfort of your own home. Simple, 100% online process. Just answer a few questions, and a medical provider will determine if treatment is right for you. If prescribed, treatment is sent direct to your door. No insurance needed. One low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. It's Hims, right, Dawson?
Start your free online visit today at hims.com/Adam. That's HIMS.com/Adam for your personalized hair loss treatment options. hims.com/Adam. Results vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information.
And by the way, of the two of you, calling one pushy, I'm just saying maybe Seinfeld would be the pushier one. I'm just propagating stereotypes again.
He had brought like 3 of his Porsches that had just been finished.
Right.
And so we were observing all of his cars. And so I said, in turn, we can observe one of my cars, which is 85 feet from here.
Hey, you know what? You're missing something else. The whole thing is a non-story and not worthy of airtime on a podcast. This is what we're doing, the recap of why this is worthy. I'm not joking. That's not a worthy story.
Well, can I tell you this?
Your name isn't big enough to drop to make that story worthy.
Well,
there, now I hit you.
I want to
say,
I
pop him up and I bring him down. I bring him right back down.
I want to say this. When people get to a certain level, there's a kind of a grandiosity.
Yeah.
And then the grandiosity is they don't know what they sound like in the story. You know, like, so the person, when you get to a certain level, they go, so I go into this restaurant and I'm sitting there and, you know, I'm sitting down in a booth and I bring my dog and I put the dog up on the table, you know, and I'm eating and I'm giving the dog some of the food and the manager comes by and he's like, hey, some people have allergies. You can't have. The guy confronts me about the dog on the table at the steakhouse, and
he doesn't realize he's the dick in the story.
He's the dick in the story. When you're grandiose, you tell these stories. You're like Zsa Zsa Gabor slapping a cop. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're like, the cop pulls her over and goes, "You're speeding," and she's like, "What the fuck?"
Right.
She smacks him because it's like, how can I speed? I'm Zsa Zsa Gabor. You're fucking make $37,000 a year. I'm fucking Zsa Zsa Gabor. So she smacks him, right? Poor people don't do that. Poor people are like, don't shoot me. I'll give you my registration. When you get to a certain level of grandiosity, you know who tells those stories? Howard Stern tells those stories. Howard Stern tells stories like, oh, God, producer Gary got me a Christmas gift. Jesus Christ, people. What is going? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, this is very exciting, Robin. Let me tell you something. You know, it was just Christmas. And Baba Booey, this dope Gary, gets me a Christmas gift, Robin. Now, I open it up, and it's a 12-pack of Dove soap.
Dove soap? Yeah. No, his beef... Yeah. Gary brought the gift to the studio.
What was the gift?
I have no idea, but Howard did an hour on what a dick Gary was for bringing it to the studio because he would have to bring it home.
Oh, now I have to
I'm like,
schlep it
you
home.
don't know what you sound like when you do this. You know,
that's great. You sound like an ungrateful.
Or he'll do, you know. Edgar Winter wants to have him induct him into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he does 20 minutes on like what an insane hassle it is, and like, wow, why would you talk to me about this and stuff? And it's like, oh no, Edgar Winter doesn't sound like a douche, and neither does Gary. Right. You sound like a douche.
Right.
And in this equation, Seinfeld sounds like a douche, but when you've been living in rarefied douche air for as long as they have, they don't realize what they sound like.
Correct.
Like Zsa Zsa Gabor slapping the cop. She thinks it's his problem.
One of my favorite Sarah Silverman jokes, the punchline is, well, you can't smell yourself.
Right.
When you're at Seinfeld level, you can't hear yourself in that... With that perspective. Am I being the douche of the story?
He volunteers a story that makes him sound wildly unreasonable.
Correct.
And a douche, and tells it as if he's the victim.
Victim and you're the douche.
Right.
Wild. Reminds me of the Israel-Palestine conflict.
But anyway, we should all get to that level.
I'm on Israel's side, for the record, for those of you that were wondering.
We should all get to the point where I could do 20 minutes on Dawson bringing a gift for me to the studio instead of sending it to my house. And then I could do 20 minutes on Seinfeld asking me to look at one of his Porsches. We should all get to that point.
In Seinfeld's defense, and I think it was abhorrent.
And by the way, I like Seinfeld. I like Howard as well. I have no problems with them. But you have to realize what you sound like.
You have to realize what. But in his defense, all we have to do is spend 12 minutes looking back at tape of this show, and even at your level, we will find stories where you have done similar things. Now, can you guys look up some stuff quickly? There's no doubt you have done similar because you're a host and because you're always trying to be entertaining. Again, he was just trying to do a bit. He was trying to do a bit where he's the victim, you're the bad guy. But, you've done this. So that's all I'm saying. I'm going to end by saying, yeah, Jerry does it, Howard, so do you. And so do I at my level. Imagine my low level if I'm hosting a show or I'm being a guest. I probably have done that. It's the story. You
Google Elon Gold being a douche, and let's see how many hours of footage come up.
Do you know what it's like?
Get it. Look,
I understand.
It's a story, but what I'm saying is when we were talking earlier, I was talking to Jay Moore earlier, and
who I started with, who used to open for me, who I got his first agent.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, we started together.
Barry Katz was our manager.
Oh, he does some Barry Katz too.
By the way, I've said this to Jay, and I'll say it right now on the air. Everybody says that I do the best Barry Katz ever. In fact, Dave Chappelle and Neil Brennan asked me to do Barry Katz on Chappelle's show. But I will say right here that nobody does a better Barry than Jay.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It's a great Barry Katz.
Yeah.
I do. And just like your Tom Papa, nobody cares. But it is funny when people go real deep.
Yeah.
Like the James Baby Doll Dixon is my agent.
Oh, James, yeah.
James Dixon.
Yeah.
And God.
You can do a Dixon?
I can't do a Dixon, but in the show The State, I think, I'm trying to think of the sketch show. I think it was The State. They did Dixon, a Dixon character as a manager or an agent but for high schoolers.
That's funny.
And it's funny to me and Kimmel and Jon Stewart, because he's our agent, but I don't know how it's playing.
I'll tell you why it's playing well. It's like what Dana Carvey said about the church lady. He was doing an impression of his neighbor who was a church lady, but that was a character. Nobody knew this woman.
Yeah,
because he said characters are impressions of people you know, but the audience doesn't know. But they're still funny. When I did Barry Katz on Chappelle's show, he was the manager of this comedy club, and he, not the stairs man. He was in a wheelchair.
Right.
Dave, you're going to be the... And then he pushes me down the stairs. People are going, that's just a weird character.
Right.
Now, on another level, you and I and other comedians can appreciate and go, oh, he's doing Barry. That's amazing. So nobody has to know who you're doing.
James Dixon, super agent on The State?
It's crazy.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
It's the funniest, especially if you know...
Like I
James.
do a new thing in my act where I go, anyone can do like a Trump or famous. I love to do impressions of people nobody knows. Like a lot of my friends' dads. I do all of my friends' dads.
You should open for Tom Papa as Tom Papa. I would watch the shit out of that.
Yeah, that would be great.
But don't tell Tom.
Prosthetics.
Can we listen one more time? Can we just
listen one more time
to this Tom Papa? This has never been done. This is like one of those, again.
It's a Haley's Comet of impressions.
Anyone could do a Jim from Taxi. But who does a Papa? Here we go.
Figured out how to do Tom Papa. Figured it out. You have to talk condescending and a little gay. It's a little gay. You gotta be repetitive.
Wait, let's see how I end this. I think I say retarded. Is that okay?
Repetitive. That's it. That's the whole thing. You just gotta keep doing this. And a little Seinfeldy. A little Seinfeldy. Seinfeldy. Seinfeld.
Wait, you're saying that Chris Rock did not send you an edible arrangeable after this?
I thought at very least a bouquet of some sort.
Yeah.
And instead, I'll read it to you. And it was weird. He's whatever. He'll probably never talk to me again.
But is the problem with
pretty
texting,
good? Congrats.
But maybe he meant it. Maybe he meant it.
No, and then the back and forth was, well, I don't like to make fun of people, especially like on record. And I go, it wasn't making fun. It
I
was
agree.
Like,
Emulating.
Yeah, it was like, hey, I found a new impression of one of our friends that we do. You know,
I don't like making fun of people. It's a weird thing for Chris
Comedian
Rock.
He's like,
I'm just a guy that tells jokes on stage. I tell jokes on stage.
The slap changed.
on stage. On stage. I tell them on stage.
We have James.
And we tell them on stage, and when we're on stage, you look at the
With
people.
the volleyball.
And the volleyball, it hits you right in the face.
All right, we have James Dixon, super
I wanna
high
see
school agent. I think it is.
I really didn't think it mattered who your high school guidance counselor was.
Oh, guys, go.
That was before I met James.
Yeah, he's the best.
Most people live under the misconception that high school is supposed to take 4 years, right? I've gotten kids out in 2. I got one kid out in a semester. You know, it's all about finesse, greasing the wheel. No, you listen to me, coach. You listen to me. I've got a note here signed by 2 medical doctors that says that Bobby is allergic to chlorine. If you put him in the pool, it'll kill him. Let's see if he calls my bluff. I've been with all the biggest talent agencies. I was with the William Morris Agency. I was with ICM. I was with the Creative Artists Agency. And now I'm here at Westbury High.
I asked James if he would write my term paper, and he didn't do it, but he got the guy who wrote Witness to do it. I got an A.
70% of the kids I represent go on to the Ivy League. And these are B-, C+ kids with little or no extracurricular activities. Some with criminal records. You know, nothing bad. Nobody killed anybody or anything. You know, actually, that's not true.
I got expelled for knifing a teacher. James couldn't get me back into school, but he sold my story to Paramount, so now I'm set for life.
And if you think that French is going to improve his pole vaulting, I just want to know one thing. Where do you get your crack? I play hardball. But if you scratch my back, I scratch yours. One hand washes the other. Look, you can tell the Massachusetts Institute of Technology to kiss my ass. Look, you ruined my melon. Bottom line, at the end of the day, it's not about the money, and it's not about me. It's about the kids. The kids whose last names start with A through M. Herensberg through Menendez.
See, that's the thing. Funny is funny.
Funny is funny.
The sketch was funny. The idea is funny. The character's funny. I don't have to know who James Dixon is.
James Dixon told me once he yelled at a guy who like made an offer for me to do something. He yelled at him, Adam Carolla doesn't roll over in bed for less than $50,000. That's a good, but that's that
a good
character
agent. And that's
yelling
the
at a
character.
guy in a phone that I don't roll over in bed.
That's
For under
great.
$50,000.
It's all levels. So when you know him personally, it's another level. I do a bit in my act just when I play for like Jews, fellow Jews, and I do a bit called Religious Rodney. So it's Rodney Dangerfield, who's a Jewish comedian, but never talked about being Jewish, never wasn't religious at all. So imagine if he was. So then the jokes are jokes like, I tell you it's rough, you know, the holidays were rough too. I tell you the holidays were tough, you know. Last year the bank foreclosed on our sukkah. Now you don't know what a sukkah is, right? But it's the little hut and the holiday of Sukkot. But so the Jews who know about Sukkot will get that on another level, but it's still like funny.
No,
you know?
I also I had a Hungarian grandfather who was Jewish.
Really? On what side?
Nobody's.
Okay, fine. We
didn't-
just
the
got so
Carollas
excited
didn't
for a
take
minute.
sides.
Okay, fine.
We didn't have real grandparents or parents or stuff like that at the Carolla house.
I understand.
We had steps and stuff,
I
you know,
see.
steps and stuff. I had a stepdad. I had a step-mom. I had a step-grandfather. I did not know. So both biological grandfathers, I did not know either one of them. But my mean grandmother, Helen, married a Hungarian Jew named Laszlo, and we called him Lazzi, and he was from Hungary and he was very Jewish.
Right.
And so he would sit down and tell me all the stories and
about
do
the
all
holidays.
the things.
So you
and,
know about Pesach.
Yeah, yeah.
You know
and
about the Seders.
And he was a Jew, so he liked to talk a lot because they're loquacious, people.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like there was one, like a very rare, like, here's how you know Jews like to talk. There are not a lot of Jewish porn stars. Ron Jeremy was like the only Jewish porn star, and he would talk your fucking ear off.
Right.
Peter North wouldn't say a word
Right.
ever. Ron Jeremy was just like, it was like he and it's also, you also notice is if you go to a wedding and the Jews marrying the Goyim and they go, we're going to do both sides. The Catholic guy wraps it up in like 4 minutes. The Jewish guy's doing 15 minutes of stand-up at the top of the thing.
At least
the
15.
rabbi is turning to Jackie Mason, who was a rabbi. Like, so,
to tell you the truth, it makes me nauseous that the two of you are standing up here and you're about to get married when you know that 50% of marriages end in divorce. This is a nauseating fact of life, and yet you're sitting here and you're saying to each other that till sickness and in health, he'll death do us part. This is a disgusting, nauseating.
That's every rabbi up there in the chuppah.
And they're doing, I mean, they're presiding over the marriage, but at some point you realize they're doing stand-up.
Right. Yeah.
And
it is stand-up.
The Catholic guy's just like wound tight and got his spectacles on.
Tight
and he's
script,
straight.
tight
And
script.
then you realize, those people they like jokes, they like to talk, they like whatever. My grandfather would sit around all day. This is on your sort of Rodney Dangerfield thing, and he'd sit and invent Jewish food, deli food, if it was mixed with Mexican food. And I'd show up like a week later and I'd sit down and he'd go, the enchilada. I'd go, yeah, write that down. Grandpa. I got it. I got a list. He had a list of like 13 things.
Oh, wow.
Now, there's nothing to do with them. That's what he did. He liked to talk. He thought it was funny. Clever phrase, turn of phrase. You know what I mean?
But it is, again, it's just another, you want to hear one of my favorites of the Rodneys?
Yes.
Tell you, Halloween came around. We couldn't afford costumes. You kidding me? My grandmother, she strapped her brassiere to my face and said, look, now you're a fly. Anyway, here's the point. Any impression that people don't know or any reference that people don't know is still funny because of cadences and rhythms and ideas. And then you go on another level, it's extra funny.
Every cartoon you watch growing up, the voice of the character was like Humphrey Bogart or something, but you were 7.
Correct.
But you didn't know who Humphrey Bogart
Yes.
was. Jackie Mason did the Anteater.
Yeah.
Although
Okay.
the aardvark and the anteater, but then he didn't do it, but then he sued them, and I don't remember what it was. It's also offensive because of the huge schnoz on the anteater.
This is another crazy, relatable Chris Rock story, who, by the way, again, I consider a pal. I've hung with him backstage at all his like arena things with a good friend of mine, is Tony Rock, his brother, so we go together and we all hang out.
I know Tony.
Tony's the best and hilarious in his own right. Yeah. And so just imagine this. So I did, again, love him, admire him, all that. But, I guess just human beings have issues with other human beings. So I do an impression of Gene Wilder. This is, by the way, 10 years ago, okay? Mm-hmm. Gene Wilder was still alive. Yeah. And he was a classic guy. Like, he was
everything.
Really, everything. And I'm on stage and I go, are you crazy? Are you nuts? And I'm doing it as part of a whole other bit. And then Rock comes over to me after, goes, what are you doing Gene Wilder for? And I go, he goes, you're hip. Like, don't, stay hip. Don't do, and I go, wait a minute. Like, the person that I grew up admiring was Billy Crystal. Billy Crystal used to do a Edward G. Robinson impression. Where's your Moses now? I didn't know who that was from the 50s. But I still said, well, he's just doing a funny voice, and it's a funny premise, and it's a funny punchline, so I'm enjoying it. And he goes, Billy Crystal is 90. Right. Billy Crystal, you want to be 90? You want to be 90? And I'm like, no, but I still think it's a classic. Meanwhile, and I kicked myself in the car on the way home, not using the perfect example, because who he admired and me, like literally top 3 growing up, was Eddie Murphy. We all in the 80s, kids who grew up in the 80s, worshipped Eddie. And Eddie did the Honeymooners as his signature bit from the 50s.
Right.
The Honeymooners. And he would do all these old impressions and, and Stevie Wonder, whatever. Like, it was impressions from when he was growing up. It's okay to do that.
Well, let's just say this, whether it's James Baby Doll Dixon in a sketch on MTV for the state,
or Barry Katz on Chappelle's show,
or I just realized on occasion, and not that often, but on occasion when I do stand-up, I'll do a John Wayne Bobbitt joke. Now, that story's 25 years old. 30 years old at least. So you go, well, that's a super old reference, but then I have different angles on it that are new angles on it that I do, and the audience likes it because they go, oh yeah, we know, I remember that name, and I go, all right, now think about this, and then we go off in a different direction, and
everybody loves a cold case but not a cold joke. This has been cold for years, this joke,
but sometimes
you find a new angle.
Yes, I think, okay, that's it. I'll do that, and I got a Kamala Harris one too, So the point is as long as you set it up and you go, here's what I'm doing, and you remember this, then you're fine.
I did Johnny Carson and Zelensky. You understand? I'm relevant and also old school. What is your take on it? Am I allowed to do a Gene Wilder? Are you on Rock's side or my side? What's your take on this?
Well, Gene died of dementia.
I'm talking about 10 years ago, 15 years
before
ago.
he got dementia. My thing is you are allowed to do whatever you want.
Thank you.
The audience is allowed to like it or not like it.
Correct.
Somebody could stand up and yell, John Wayne Bobbitt got his dick cut off in 1992, you hack, and then leave.
Right.
They're allowed to do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So everyone is allowed to do everything. I have jokes that I sometimes know they might not like, or I'm going to have to explain to them like what this disease is or what this means or whatever. And then we're allowed to, and we shouldn't want it any other way, because what if there were a whole bunch of rules to doing stand-up? Then everyone would start getting funneled into like the same middle lane.
Correct.
And then there wouldn't be a Tom Papa versus a Chris Rock versus a Seinfeld.
Cut to on the next Spike Ferriston show. Here's Jerry Seinfeld, and then Adam Carolla brings up Bobbitt. You don't bring up Bobbitt. It's 30 years ago. I saw Bobbitt. I don't want to see Bobbitt. Plus, there's people around.
What about people? What if Papa and Bobbitt? What if we turn to one guy? Bobbitt.
I guess to put a button on this, Jerry was on Spike's podcast yesterday. And he said he sold the car to a private collector.
You found that?
Yeah, actually, just in the news today.
Wow.
From Road and Track magazine.
What did it say?
When asked about the auction, Jerry said, and Elon, you can do this much better, but I am a carefree guy, Whatever happens, happens. He said he didn't watch the auction.
Hold on a second. Does he sound footloose and fancy-free when I'm telling him to walk 80 yards to look at a 935? That doesn't sound carefree. It feels encumbered to me, but go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
So he admits he never even bothered to watch the auction. He said, I'm a carefree guy, whatever happens.
Hold on.
I'm a carefree guy.
He said he used it.
Hold on. First off, you got a car that you're thinking is going between 25 and 30 million. That auction took place at about, 2 in the afternoon or 1 in the afternoon. I watch it out here. It was in Kissimmee, Florida, Kissimmee or whatever we're calling it. But the point is I watch it on my phone in the shop back there on a Saturday. Hard to believe. You can live stream it. They'll live stream the auction. The point is you go to the website, hit live, and you're watching it on your phone.
Seinfeld said he used the auction as an advertising tool for the car.
Okay, that makes sense.
People were doubtful that it could reach 25 million, but Meekum and Seinfeld thought that it would.
But hold on,
Meekum had a plan to market it.
Hold on. So you got a phone in your pocket. You're at Martha's Vineyard, and at 11 in the morning, your $25 to $30 million car is going live on your phone, and you don't touch. You don't just hit the button and look at it just to see where it's going?
I can't find him explicitly saying this, but he did not intend to sell that car at auction.
Oh, well, let's figure it out. Now, look, there is a thing. There's a thing where the quarterback drives you down in the Super Bowl to the 31-yard line, and there's 2 seconds left on the clock, and you guys are down by 2 points, and the field goal team goes out there. There's a human thing where the quarterback turns his back. Like it goes, I can't watch. Yeah. Now, most the team is watching, but there'll be 2 or 3 guys just down, like going the other way, just I cannot watch. Like you're never going to find out. You know what I mean? Like whether you're going to leave the stadium, still not know whether you got that Lombardi or not. But all right, but the point is, there is I'm nervous, I can't watch this thing, but that's not carefree.
No.
And that's not set for life financially. I feel like you would. But
it's not carefree. It's not carefree. It's expensive. It's expensive. On the podcast, Seinfeld explains that with high-end items like this, a lot of times serious buyers don't want to buy in the frenzy of an auction setting. So we met with Dana Meekum, president and founder, and they devised the plan. Put it up for auction, don't sell it. It was advertising.
Well,
unless of course they got 30 million, then.
Well, wait a second.
But I'm sure he got more than 25 from a private collector.
Well, so they use it for advertising. That's true. When you give, it's like when you take an auction that deals with $100,000 cars and maybe $1 million car, whatever, from Joe Blow, and then Seinfeld brings a $25 million car. They advertise the shit out of it and they push it everywhere, and it gets tons of eyeballs and clicks and whatever. It's like if Chris Rock was going to play the Deli Smoker in Sherman Oaks or something, they wouldn't keep it close to the vest. They'd shove it out there. Like, guess who's coming to our little place? There is that, but also, there is the part that I talked about, which is the guy and Dana Meekum and Seinfeld get together and work it out. But it's still a little... I told you this thing had a little Vaseline on the lens, right? It wasn't exactly, hey, I'm bringing a car, take an auction, may the best man win.
As far as the sale price goes, Seinfeld is just saying that it is in the 25 million range.
All right. Okay, so that's what that car's worth. I'll tell you, I went to the Meekum auction in Kissimmee, and I was standing backstage with Seinfeld, and they said, you want to check out the 917? I said, I'm good. It's a true story.
Did that happen?
They said it again, and I said, nah. I said, I've seen the movie.
But why? Why not go see it? Because there's people around?
And then what?
And then
stuff.
What? And then what?
And then what? Stuff. Ooh. Yeah. I mean, look, why be born? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're born.
Yeah.
Stuff
happens.
Right. And then you die. Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Really, people?
And then what?
And then what?
And
You're
then
born.
what?
Oh, you have kids of your own.
Yeah.
I get it. Okay. You graduate high school.
I mean, you can and then what everything.
I know.
You can and then what everything. You know what doesn't get and then what enough? Like the announcements of the plane for the safety announcements.
Right.
In the event of a water, and then what?
And then what?
And then what? Well, then you open up your life check, and then what? Then get on the boat, and then what?
And then what? We end up on an island with a skipper and Marianne.
And then what?
And then the Harlem Globetrotters come to play.
But this was an and then what not moment. It was not an and then what moment. It would be like, yeah, I'll go get to see the car. We knew what the and then what was, and yet he asked it. That's the point. Condescendingly.
Also, you.
And then what?
But listen, if I said I'm going to Comic-Con because I'm the biggest Star Wars fan in the world, and I'm bringing some of my Star Wars memorabilia to Comic-Con.
And then what?
And then I showed up, and somebody said, the guy who played Darth Vader standing on the other side of the convention center, when I go, well, why do I want to see that?
Yeah.
like I don't know, you're
and
here.
Once I see it, and then what?
And then what? I don't know.
Can the name of this episode be and then what?
Then what? All right. So It sold, and from the looks of the article, it was 25 or more.
He said it's in the around 25 million. Let me get his exact quote. He says, the comedian wouldn't comment on the final transactional price, but said it was in the $25 million range.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Now I want to buy a 917 and bring it to Rensport and meet Seinfeld there and then try to convince him to come see it. But then he'd say he sold his. So he doesn't.
Don't you ever wonder if he's going to hear this? Like, I know Tom Papa will hear this.
Well,
17 people will send this to Tom Papa.
Really?
But is one sending it to Rock or Jerry?
Well, let me say this. When I started broadcasting, I realized very early that if you picture people you're talking about listening to you, or just picture people listening to you, it will change the conversation between 10 and 80%. Like, it's a lot.
In a negative direction.
Well, not necessarily.
It won't be as free and authentic.
Not necessarily negative. It just will not be the same conversation.
Okay.
And anyone who's gone, so when you go to dinner at your new girlfriend's house and you're sitting there for Thanksgiving, it's a totally different conversation than you'd have watching football with the boys. But try this experiment. You go to a diner, and it's you and your comedic buddy, whatever. They sit you down in a booth. The worst ever is they get that dude who eats breakfast alone, and he just sits down next to you, and he's just sitting there alone the whole time. And now your conversation is ruined because you want to go on these scatological rants and riffs. You want to bring stuff up. Correct. You want to get into Chris Rock and Jerry Seinfeld, what douchebags they are, whatever it is.
You're recommending to not think about them.
It changes your conversation.
Correct.
And I'm in the business of not putting a governor on the conversation.
Correct. And
so when you think about Seinfeld or Rock or Papa listening then it affects the conversation. But also, can I say this? I like everybody and don't have a beef with anybody. Right. And all the people we're talking about are just fine, thank you.
Like when fine, thank you.
What people say. So I'm not worried about Seinfeld having his feelings hurt about this. I like Seinfeld. I like all these guys.
Seinfeld made somebody's feelings clearly hurt.
All right, Elon, we'll take a quick break.
I think we should end the whole podcast.
We really should.
So well.
But Carol Leifer's out there.
Oh, okay, fine. Oh, quick. So I'm done. No, I don't think I'm going to get better.
No, not done.
I don't think I'm going to. You're not done. Not done. Done.
Hit with a volleyball. Say it 3 times.
Hit with a volleyball. A volleyball. Hit with it.
Well, Carol hasn't arrived yet.
Okay.
So
we'll keep talking.
Well,
I have a movie coming out. We should talk about that.
Okay, in Seinfeld, Elaine is molded after Carol Leifer,
and then she wrote on the show. So
in
wrote
Seinfeld,
for herself.
so we're all full circle.
Larry's
hold on.
Yeah.
We got to take a break. We just need a break. We'll do some news, and then Carol will come in. We'll figure it out.
Great.
All right. Well, breaking news. I'd say it's pretty much broken. You're constantly scrolling on your Facebook, Twitter, X now. That's right. TikTok. You're probably over the news. Well, if that sounds like you, I recommend you give a listen to the Up First podcast from NPR. Up First frees you from the all-day scroll obsession by telling you everything you need to know in an easy 15-minute format. No BS, just short, digestible chunks. The show's interesting. It's not your dad's NPR. And I enjoy it. Up First, short format, makes it easy to catch up on what's happening while you're getting ready, making breakfast, or just heading off to work. So, digest it, enjoy it, and live it, man. It's Up First, right, Dawson?
Listen now to the Up First podcast from NPR.
Select quote, there's so many things in life we just never get around to. taking up that hobby, cleaning out the garage. You know you need to do that. Little things that don't really make huge differences in our lives. Yet, there is one thing that most of us have probably been neglecting that can have a huge impact on our family's future. It's life insurance. And with SelectQuote, getting covered with the right policy for you is easier and more affordable than you may think. If you have high blood pressure, no problem. If you have diabetes, that's fine too. Even if you have heart disease, SelectQuote partners with carriers that can cover those conditions and others. Head to SelectQuote.com and a licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. It is SelectQuote. Right, Dawson?
SelectQuote. They shop, you save. Get the right life insurance quote for you for less at SelectQuote.com/Carolla. Go to SelectQuote.com/Carolla today to get started. That's SelectQuote.com/Carolla.
I have one rule in my house with my kids. No racial slurs out of their mouths. None. Ever. My kids aren't even allowed to use the word vinegar with the hard R. Oh yeah. They gotta be like, hey Dad, can you pass the vinegar?
Elon Gold is on the Adam Carolla Show.
Elon's got a stand-up special out. Elon Gold's
Also,
40-minute comedy special.
I don't let my kids say Snickers. If Snickers is their favorite, and then I always teach them to be polite. I don't ever want to hear them saying Snickers, please. You understand?
Snickers, please.
I don't want. By the way, it's my son's 18th birthday today. My son is 18. Isn't it? You're supposed to say, "Wow, you look amazing."
Wow, you look amazing.
And I have a 24-year-old, and I have a daughter who's married now.
Really?
20. She got married.
Jesus.
Last month, my daughter got. I have a son-in-law. You know what the law is? I have to pay their rent.
I don't know what the fuck happened to kids and rent, and I have these conversations every day, which makes me sound like an old asshole. But like when you get divorced, my kids are both 18 and a half. You get divorced, there's a lot of stuff. Who's going to take care of the kids? Like you got to give them like an apartment building or something. Like what about the kids? What about the kids? I go, I don't know. You can get a job. You can graduate high school,
and then
you can get a job, and then you can go do something. I don't know. What do you mean? What? Why is it incumbent upon me to set up kids for the rest of? By the way, there's a whole table of like lawyers and ladies. They're just looking at you, going, What are these kids going to do? They're going to get old, and then they're going to get a fucking job, or they're going to be junkies. Right. I don't know. Right. But they'll fucking figure it out. What am I supposed to do? Just work into my 90s so they can have shit because I don't feel like working?
I don't think it's about you working for them to have stuff. I think that because I feel the parental pressure of setting them up.
They need to be set up.
My connections will help them with getting things. You know what I mean? And people do that all the time.
No, I get. Listen, you want to do sports? I'll interview.
You're going to make a call.
Bill Simmons is a friend, and he can maybe get you a job on his podcast. Okay.
Exactly.
Sorry, Mayhem. News. Sorry.
We got some news. A convicted double murderer is set to die by firing squad in South Carolina on Friday. The first execution of its kind in the U.S. in the last 15 years.
I don't get why we argue over firing squads all the time. Like, we go, we'll do lethal injection, but then somebody's a conscientious objector, which should be a conscientious injector, and they go, I'm not going to provide anything. I took a Hippocratic oath, and then we go, well, the problem is it stops the breathing, but sometimes the guys choke and convulse on their own saliva. It's like, give him the fucking firing squad then. How are you going to miss this guy's melon head?
Yeah.
You're never going to miss this guy's head. And you know what I would do? I would go, listen, we'll give you a choice. Lethal injections off the table, electric chair, too big a draw.
Can we push you off a building?
Yeah, I'll give you a pistol and you can handle it like Hitler if you like.
Yeah, a machine gun.
Yeah, well, the problem is at some point they'll fire back at you if we give them a machine gun.
Right.
I mean, you only need one bullet. No, you never empty the whole clip in your head. But you can go out like Eva Braun and Hitler did. I'll give you a fucking cyanide.
Like this?
Yeah, under the chin. I'll give you a cyanide capsule. You can do what Nazi generals did. You know, like or we'll shoot you and do the whatever. But why are we arguing all the time? Like it has to be humane. I don't know. I don't know about killing people humanely. Most people are not killed humanely.
Right.
Whoever this guy killed
Right.
was not given a lethal injection and having a priest standing by them, right?
Right.
He fucking put a shiv in someone's liver or
No,
something.
too, he killed his ex-girlfriend's parents. Yeah, tied them up, then beat them with a baseball bat.
That had to be great. If that's the way you go with your wife, like this guy's beating you to death, it's
in
insane.
separate rooms.
In separate rooms. But your last discussion with your wife while you're dying is going to be an argument. I told you this guy was bad. I told you he was right. Oh, you wouldn't listen. Wait. Heart of gold. Heart of gold, you said. You said, I'm happy. You said you wanted grandkids. Remember I told you I had this bad... Hold on, I'm being beat with a bat. Hold on a second. Okay. Hold on with the bat for 1 second. Remember that time Carol brought him home and I was like, I don't trust this guy. And you're like, I think he has kind eyes. Kind eyes. I'm being beaten to death with a bat by Mr. Kind Eyes over here. So, all right, we'll just go into the great beyond with one last argument, but let's let it know for eternity who is right. All right, continue with the bat beating now, sir. Go on. Thank you.
Only 3 inmates in the U.S. have been executed by firing squad since 1976, with all of them taking place in Utah.
What is the firing squad like?
The methodology is 3 volunteers will fire at
Only
him through
3?
a small opening in the death chamber.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he'd be strapped to a chair, have a hood placed over his head, and a target placed over his heart. I say they make him look at it like a
target over
man.
the heart.
Oh,
Yeah.
You don't see the guy. Oh, interesting.
He has to wear a hood. That's weak sauce. If you're like man enough to kill people, then you're man enough to die.
Right.
Yeah. Also,
I also picture the guy who's like the tag along guy. Hey, we going to the gun club Sunday? Yeah, it's like a gun club. You just show up.
know where it's going.
It's right there. You see that? Just shoot above in that hole, and then you don't know.
I didn't know they did it that way. I was picturing like hay bales out in the courtyard.
Yeah, no,
you know?
I was surprised at the methodology too. The weird thing is that he requested the unusual punishment after fearing the electric chair would burn and cook him alive, and then he heard 3 previous inmates took more than 20 minutes to die after receiving the fatal dose of phenobarbital.
Ah, see.
So he,
You know what's funny?
He's fearful.
Here's what's funny
What a
about
week.
here's what's funny about our society. Like, if this guy was facing the fire squad or just put to death in California, they'd be like, "We're going to strap you to an electric chair. We're going to give you the firing squad." And I go, "Okay." Any last request would be like, "Could I have a cigarette?" No, sorry. That's a little dangerous.
cancer.
Yeah, there's third-hand smoke. They would literally outlaw smoking on the way to being executed with a firing squad in California.
Correct.
100% would not allow smoking. There would be
that.
an issue if somebody wanted a cigarette before they were put to death.
And they would find a way. By the way, I was just in Israel, and you know how the quintessential Israeli cab driver just smokes. Like, could you imagine getting into an Uber, a guy smoking cigarette after cigarette? The entire car is filled up. I'm asking him, like, can you open the window?
What this?
Right, and he goes, why you want it open? I go, the smoke. He goes, smoke? It's good for you. And I'm like, no, it's not. And he goes, what? Tell me what's good for you. And I go, I don't know, like vegetables, fruit. He goes, fruit. Fruit has a lot of sugar. You know what has 0 sugar? Smoke. That really happened.
When you see, I believe it. It's also weird when you go back and you see like old movies and stuff. Like, I was watching Laurel. Oh no, not Laurel and Hardy. Sorry, I was watching Abbott and Costello in the Jack and the Beanstalk. It came on TV. I don't know why, but it came on, and I just started watching it, like a movie from the 40s or the 50s. And they get jobs as babysitters, and they come walking into this home. And they're walking in the home. They go, all right, we'll be back at 11. Now watch the child. And they go, all right. And the guy, the couple leaves. And Costello or Abbott or whatever, they look down. They go, oh, cigars. Don't mind if I do. And he's like, pulls a cigar out and he just starts to light. He's standing in these people's living room.
But that's not the bit.
Puffing on a cigar.
Right.
And I'm watching and go, could you imagine babysitting at someone's house? You just come in and light up a stogie and the kids standing there.
And the cigar lighting wasn't the bit.
No.
That's the point.
That wasn't the joke. That was just space work. That was just something to do in these people's living room.
Correct.
Yeah, versus just just standing there with your hands by your side the whole time. Cigar,
Yes.
don't mind if I do. And he's
Right.
just puffing away, and I'm sitting around and go, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, times have changed. We have a special guest.
My next guest, she's a funny young woman. She's making his. I'm glad you're all in a good mood tonight. By the way, I'm glad. Remember when he said that?
Yeah.
He always said before a comedian,
Yeah.
I'm glad you're all in a good mood tonight. We've got Carol Leifer here. She's playing the Yuck Yucks in Toronto on April 12th to the. No, where is she? Is she really? Does she have dates?
She's got dates. She's going to be in
Someone's
Hermosa
now
Beach.
on the Yuck Yucks.
She's gonna. I mean, she's done Letterman 25 times.
That's nuts.
By the way,
That with a condom?
huh? Oh, with the the Letterman show. Sorry. Took me a second. All right.
You know, she dated Jerry and worked for Jerry and worked on Seinfeld and worked on Seinfeld.
That's why
You understand?
we talk. She's here, by the way.
Okay, so
yes, that's funny that we talked about Seinfeld so much, and then she's coming in. So I will ask her about that. All right, so they stand 15 feet away, according to the graphic I saw, and they shoot them through a hole in the whatever. And then the question is sort of like, do they do it mafia hit style where they like put plastic down, and had him sit in a folding chair, or do they just come in and mop up? Like what? This dude's a load, you know what I mean? Like somebody's going into the room and somebody's got to show up with a stretcher or a pallet jack or something, you know what I mean? Like I would put a pallet in front of him and a pallet jack, and I just go, your fat ass going to fall forward, you're going to land on this pallet, and then we're just going to work you out like we work at a Costco. Sorry.
I like it.
right.
I never knew there were firing squads.
Oh, we have Jack and the Beanstalk with Abbott Costello for some for
God.
some unknown
Does he light
some
up?
unknown reason. Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
Now the kid puts a roller skate in front of the door.
So he slips. It's a Home Alone thing.
And he's got his little baby brother, and he's sitting there.
High class, huh?
Oh, wow.
Cigar.
Wow.
Yeah, don't mind if I do.
Music to my ears. My first victim. Duty calls. See you, Mr. Dingle.
Again, the cigar is not the joke.
No, the two guys show up to babysit in a suit and tie. The one guy lights a cigar. You know what I said? All right, you can pause it. All right,
there it goes. That slips. Yeah.
I babysat in the 70s.
Yeah.
In the 70s. For Reevy and Ronnie, Israelis.
Mm-hmm.
And then Adam.
Where was
other
this?
Jewish neighbors. Everyone was a Jew.
What neighborhood was it?
North Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
I got $1 an hour. There was one of me, and I was 13. $1 an hour. Abbott Costello are babysitting 1949. There's two of them, and they're adults. How much are they making?
What are they getting?
Are they getting like?
And they have to split it.
They've got to split a
Right.
nickel
Could you
an hour.
imagine splitting your dollar?
I was 13.
Right.
I'd babysit for 4 hours. I'd get $4, and
Right.
I'd just go, all right, that's enough. I can buy some candy or something. It wasn't enough to get a go-kart or anything. I didn't have, it was just a little walking around money. That was all I had. In 1949, babysitters had to be 18 cents an hour, and you got to split it with two middle-aged adults?
Nuts.
All right. So
How do you
one
buy
more.
cigars with that kind of...
Well, you steal them from the guy who owns the house. All right, Carol Leifer, let's do one more out there.
All right. With kid offered Google job out of high school, but got rejected by 16 colleges. Now he's suing for discrimination. High achieving student is taking legal action against several universities, alleging racial discrimination. Stanley Zhang, a 19-year-old from Palo Alto, California, boasts a 4.42 GPA and a near-perfect SAT score of 1590.
I don't like this GPA over 4.
Doesn't make sense.
It's the fucking coach yelling, I need 110%. Like, no, you don't. It's 100. We're
Doesn't
maxed out at
make
100.
sense.
It's 4. You can stop at 4.
Stop at 4.
That's it. Am I right, Tom?
How many slices of pizza? 9. There's 9. He's got 9. 9.
I was at the home show.
Yeah.
I swear to God. You think, okay, he's got a 4.2 GPA. It just stops at 4. It needs to stop at 4. You can't give 110%, but if you want something that's even more infuriating, but not to you two with no building skills, in the woodworking world, in the world of hardwoods, dimensional lumber. I'm talking not engineered lumber. I'm talking about hardwood. I'm talking about the real tree fallen dimensional lumber.
Yeah.
When I'm talking to the person at the home show and I'm asking, they're going, we use real wooding on the wood on our cladding on the side of the. I go, what size wood planks do you use? They go, we do 5/4. I go 5/4. Yeah, 5/4. Now I know this from if you go to a hardwood shop and you buy wood, they have 3/4, but 1 inch is 3/4. When you go to the Home Depot and you go, give me a 1x6, you don't get 1x6, you get 3/4 by 5.5. That's how it works. So if 1x is 3/4, then what is a true 1 inch? It's 5/4. Because 1 inch is 4/4, but 1 inch is 3/4. So they call it 5/4. And I go, you understand that's not real. It's not a thing. You can break something up into quarters, but you can't have 5 of them. That's 20%, not 25%. So in the world of lumber, a true 1 inch thick is not 4/4, it's 5. And that is the equivalent to 110%.
I can't. That's amazing. I can't believe you used that analogy to this Jewish person.
I know.
Who doesn't know from lumber. Who's never been inside of a Home Depot.
You know.
Yes. Costco will go. We'll go to Costco.
You know that
Costco, sure. But Home Depot, it's not for us. Costco, yeah. We love bulk. Give me 13 of everything. But
Gilbert,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that a 2x4 is not a 2x4.
Okay.
That you know,
Fine.
right?
Fine.
And you know that a 2x4 is 1.5 inches by 3.5.
Okay.
Weird.
And 2 being 1.5 inches is just 3/4 and 3/4. So they call it a 2, 1 and 1, but
give the 110%.
always 3/4.
This is the perfect analogy to the wrong guy.
This guy, this Asian fella, who's trying to get into all these schools and suing because they're not letting him in with his high GPA, over 4, and his almost perfect SAT scores.
Right.
Listen to me, everyone. Let me explain how life works. You start off with the best of intentions. You say, we need more diversity at UCLA.
All good intention.
All good.
And then what?
Well, we need to defund the police and have community policing. You know, okay, Mrs. Pie in the sky. That sounds great. So you go, listen. UCLA does not represent enough Hispanics and enough blacks and enough whatever, you fill in the blank. So we would like them to be represented at there. And no one can argue with that. You go, good intentions. And then at some point you go, well, there are just not enough Hispanics or blacks or whatever that are going to make the cut for UCLA. So then you go, okay, we're going to have to adjust that for these people. So now you start lowering the test scores or adjusting for those people. And then at a certain
Let's turn the merit volume down.
Yes. And then at a certain point, you go, UCLA campus and enrollment is not infinite. It's finite. So we can't just go, let's let all of this in and all of that in. So then at a certain point, you go, we kind of are full. So now you go, okay, but we want diversity. All right. Who do we have the most of? Asians. Okay. So here's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to up their score in order to get into UCLA, and we'll simultaneously lower black and Hispanic or whoever we have the least of so that we can balance this out. There is no such thing as just going, we're going to be inclusive. Somebody's got to get kicked out. And somebody needs to be discriminated against in the name of your inclusivity.
That is the insane thing, because you're 100%
So get off
right.
your fucking pious mountain, all you pricks.
You're 110% right.
you.
You're 4.9%.
I'm 5/4 better.
You're 5/4 better, and I'm not kidding, because to encapsulate what you just said, even intentions that are meant for inclusion and all the good stuff that everybody would recognize as this is a nice thing, end up as the most racist, discriminatory policies.
It's all a shit show.
It's a shit
Everything
show.
is let's
because
just
they take
shut,
it too far.
We'll just shut Los Angeles down for 8 days till we curb the virus,
Right.
and then we'll open up. Yeah, sure you
They
will.
take everything
sure you
too
will.
far. Me Too was the correction, the societal correction that we needed. Men needed. But then when you're going, Aziz Ansari had a date with a girl when, wait, stop for a second. Okay, start. Okay, stop for a second. It's like, he's Me Too'd for that?
This is the problem with everything. And then what? All right. Carol Leifer's out there. I'm going to bring her in. I'll say goodbye to
Okay, I'll see you.
Elon and
Great
Mayhem.
to see you guys.
Great stuff.
That
I'll
was
give all the
fun.
plugs at the end of the
Doesn't
show.
matter. Doesn't matter.
I know. Listen, you plug yourself by coming in here.
Thank you.
Knocking it out of the ballpark.
Go plug yourself.
All right. Great comedian Carol Leifer will be in studio right after this.
Good.
O'Reilly. O'Reilly. Auto Parts. Wow. Yeah, you know the jingle. Yeah, they're in the business of keeping your car on the road. O'Reilly Auto Parts offers friendly, helpful service and the parts and knowledge you need for maintenance and for repairs as well. I've always been a fan of O'Reilly. You know, I like the wrench. Used to use the one over in North Hollywood. Then it was the one up in La Cañada, or La Crescenta when I used to live out there. I'm always working on my stuff and always using O'Reilly. Whether you're a car aficionado or an auto novice, you're going to find the employees at O'Reilly Auto Parts to be knowledgeable, helpful, and best of all, they are friendly. So stop by. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Do it today. Or you can visit us online, O'ReillyAuto.com/Adam. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/Adam.
It's time to check Adam's voicemail.
Eighth man. Had a moment the other day I think you'll appreciate. Settling down, a little bit of youth porn. Everything was all lining up for a good old time. Girl was hot. You know, so on and so forth. But then in the background of the video, there was the beeping of a dying smoke detector. But I just want you to know, gritted my teeth. I got the job done despite the annoying beeping. Get it on.
You can leave us a message at 888-634-1744.
Yeah, it's been usurped, the beeping smoke detector, by the black community. It used to be a white thing, and now it's a black thing. When I started off in radio, it was white people who had it going off. That's been taken over by the African-American community. So next time you get pissed at Elvis, let's talk about smoke
Now I know.
Now we're
Okay.
talking about smoke detectors. Carol Leifer in studio, how to write a funny speech. And I want to know about this book for a wedding, a bar mitzvah, a graduation.
Yes.
Let's talk about do's and don'ts. To me, the first thing I want to think about is length.
Exactly.
People going on too long, right?
Yes, that's 101 of speeches. But how many events have you been to, Adam, where the person goes on and you want to kill yourself?
Almost every time I do stand up, I think, I think that about myself. No, but I agree. And so it's a weird thing, which is I liken it to pizza, which is when I go to if on the off chance that I have to eat at Domino's,
yes,
I go, give me the thin crust. And the reason I say give me the thin crust is there's less to screw up. It's just you're not going to screw up the crust because it's a 1/4 inch thick. And my feeling is bridesmaid or best man or whomever, you're nervous about this thing.
Yes.
You think you're shorten it up then.
Right.
No one ever says it's too short.
No.
You're
no
not
one
skilled
ever
at
does.
it, so why are you going 17 minutes? Let's make it 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's a rookie mistake that people make with speeches. They think, oh, to really celebrate this person, I need to go on and on and on. And you don't. You need to keep it short and sweet. But that's a big reason why I wrote this book with my comedy writer buddy, Rick Mitchell, because people need to make speeches. They're completely afraid of it. And then it's pretty simple how to tell people to write a good speech, and we give you ways to make it a funny speech.
What is the format that is simple? Is there a structure?
Yes.
The most common mistakes?
Well, as you were saying about speech length, what most people don't realize that we know as comedians is you're probably not the only person who's been asked to give a speech. You're going to be one of many. So that's why it is important to keep it 5 minutes or under. And under. Yeah, because how many events have you gone to where it's this endless parade of people and you're like, I'm so hungry, I need to eat.
Yeah, or
and I have
pee
to,
or whatever.
Yeah, and I have to listen to one more of these.
Oh, you know what? It's funny you say 5 minutes because I just did this thing with Barry Weiss in Austin, Texas at some theater, and it was like a film debate, and it's for a series and so on and so forth. And she smartly had the 4 people on stage, all speakers, professors. I was the only comedian. But the point is she said, everyone goes and makes an opening statement. The opening statement is 5 minutes, and there's a countdown clock. And when we get to 5, a buzzer goes off. So you have 5 minutes to make your case. And everyone went out there and made their case in 5 minutes, and whether they were for or against, and this was about Christianity versus being an atheist or whatever it was, but it's like 5 minutes, ample time. I heard that guy. I got it.
Yes. Well, that was great. That was smart that she did it, and that she got a little rough about it. You got a buzzer? That was, yeah.
And at your feet, you're playing a 1,300-seat theater, but as you look down, you're looking at a countdown that started with 5 minutes. Your first syllable that comes out of your mouth, hit it.
Hey, that's great. Well, we know that, from playing Vegas, they have the clocks in the stage, and you really have to keep that, as you know, because they need to get everybody out onto the floor gambling.
Did they have them back in the day? Because comedy clubs did not have clocks traditionally.
Yeah, just the light.
But they wouldn't light you per se if you were headlining, or you might ask for the light, but they did not have a clock. They all have clocks now, but did Vegas have clocks early on because they were a different cadence or schedule?
Well, I hate to name drop someone who I opened for, but I opened for Frank Sinatra.
Really?
At Bally's in Las Vegas.
What
it's
year?
Part of a story. 1989. And of course, there was a clock. And opening for Frank Sinatra, you stuck to the schedule for sure.
Oh, really?
Well, or else a large man named Vito would come after you afterwards.
What were you doing? How many minutes?
15.
15. And literally that meant 15, not 15 and 45 seconds.
Exactly. And the clock was in the stage, and I knew exactly when to skedaddle. Yeah.
And how many shows did you do with him?
I did 4.
And how was it?
It was amazing. Well, let me tell you how I got the job, okay? I met, I was doing comedy clubs and doing my stand-up thing, and I met this agent who will remain nameless for now, but he said, I think you could be doing a lot better as a stand-up. And he said, come to my office, give me a list of the gigs you've done and how much you got, and we'll go over it. So I brought the list to his office, And he was going over each, oh, you got that at Laugh-A-Lots? Yeah, no, I could do better than that. You know, oh, this is it from the Funny Barn? No, we could do much better.
Is this like are you doing Letterman hits at the spots at this point?
Yeah,
so you're on TV.
I'm on TV.
Right.
So I decided to sign with him. Cut to like 6 months later, the gigs are horrible. I'm literally working at Ground Round restaurants on the Jersey Turnpike, trying to talk over the sound of crushed peanut shells.
On the floor.
Yeah, because they would give you peanuts.
They had the barrel.
So I kept saying to him, what's happening with the great gigs? And he was like, I'm working on Frank. And I'm like, at this point, who? Frank Stallone?
Right.
Opening for him? What's happening? And more shitty gigs. And then finally, I'm working on a cruise ship, Adam. And you know back in the day when you got a phone call on a cruise ship, someone in your family died or your apartment was on fire.
It was a big deal.
It was a big deal. And he called me, he said, I got you opening for Frank Sinatra at Bally's in Las Vegas. And I was like, he was like apparently friends with Jilly Rizzo, you know, who is Frank's manager. And it's still the highlight of
Where
my
was
career.
Frank at this point, his career age and so forth in 89?
He was older, but still delivering. I remember, I think he was talking about Sinead O'Connor and not liking her because she ripped up a picture of the Pope.
Yeah.
But he was still great. And what I loved as a performer, and I think you would have loved as a performer, is he would go out and however the crowd was, I mean, of course it's Frank and people loved him, but if it was an extra into it crowd, he'd do more time, you know? If they were a little laid back, he'd lay back a little bit. But he would introduce me after when he came on, which was incredible. And he said...
Oh, after his set.
Before his set. Like when I would walk off, he would bring me back for a bow.
Oh, okay.
Which was incredible.
That was great.
Yeah. And one night, he said some funny things. One night he said, that was Carol Leifer, funny broad. I wish my mother had been that funny. I wouldn't have had to work so hard. And then he went to Summer Breeze, you know? So, yeah, it was incredible.
And interesting being, I mean, it's great. It is, I mean, to say, you know, it's like kind of window in time, like doing, you know, sometimes I realize I did Letterman a couple times as panel, though not as a stand-up, you know, but sometimes you'll be talking to a younger person, comedian or whatever, they go, you did Letterman. Oh, wow. Because you realize that's sort of their Carson.
Yeah.
And then, but now Carson, did you do Carson or the Tonight Show with Leno?
I did it with Jay.
Yeah.
A few times, but I never did it with Johnny until one time right before he retired because I auditioned for the show 22 times.
22 times.
22 times.
An audition means they come see you at a club, do a set, right?
Yes, right. Yeah. And
you know they're coming.
You know they're coming, but I could never crack it. And each time I was like, you know, after time 11, you want to see me again?
All right.
Okay.
It's such a weird, vulnerable position to be in that most people never put themselves in because life doesn't really work that way, meaning people have jobs, people have pressure, and whether you're an accountant or a roofer, you have to show up somewhere and you have to do something, and at some point you may not be performing, and at some point you may get laid off, but you never really have the critique that they have with you. Like they sit down and they go, it's a little too much of this and a little too less, not enough of that. And by the way, it's also not a science.
Yeah.
So if you do make mistakes as a roofer, you put some shingles on backwards and there's a leak, and you made some mistakes as an accountant, your client got audited, whatever, the math didn't add up. But as a comedian, who's to say who's funny or what's working or what the vibe is? It's really all kind of up to that person who's critiquing you, right?
Yeah, and you know, Jim McCauley at the time was the guy and the only guy who was the gatekeeper to Johnny Carson. So it was totally up to him. But I think also because I was a Letterman act and had done the Letterman show so many times, they kind of dismissed me as, oh, yeah, she does Letterman.
they used to have real big, they were very territorial back in the day.
Yes.
And there was a serious thing of like, if you were on Letterman, then you couldn't do Leno, or you couldn't do the Tonight Show, and if vice versa. And if this guy went on to plug his movie onto Letterman, then he couldn't go on the Late Show or the Tonight Show after that. Like there were so many rules.
Yeah.
And there's no more rules anymore.
No. And also, I don't think younger comedians understand that, for my generation, like, to get on the Tonight Show was everything.
Oh, yeah.
And there were, like, no other big outlets. And now, to do it's really better to do podcasts that are popular than even network late night shows.
I was told by Elon Gold that we had to break down the Jerry Seinfeld tape of not wanting to see my Porsche with you.
Yeah, I want to hear
because you dated and you're friends and you worked with him for so many years. What was that relationship like? Where did you guys meet? We'll set the table before we play the tape.
So I go to audition night, open mic night at the comic strip.
What year is this?
This is 77.
Mm-hmm.
And I went with my college buddy, Paul Reiser.
Mm-hmm.
And we went on audition night, open mic night, and Jerry Seinfeld was the MC.
Mm.
And that night, he put me through the audition, Paul Reiser, and Rich Hall, if you remember Rich Hall.
Sure, Rich Hall. Sniglets.
Sniglets, that's right.
Rich Hall, stand-up, but it also was on SNL.
Yeah.
I think, and it had a Sniglets. I don't know how to explain it other than it was a thing.
Yes.
In a book.
Right. And I'm actually going to be working with Rich Hall at the Barnes of Wolf Trap
So
Theater.
that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
These three big names of stand-up all just sort of show up at the same time, along with Seinfeld, who's in 77 is Seinfeld, but not really Seinfeld.
Not at all. But he
Right.
was like a big gun at the comic strip already.
Right.
So I literally know him from my first day night at the comic strip.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we dated briefly. And then we've stayed friends all these years. And then when I moved out to L.A., of course, I'm still friends with Larry David, who passed me on the audition at Catch a Rising Star. So I also know him.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And is Elaine based on you, as they say?
People say that, but, I think they draw that comparison because I dated Jerry and we have stayed friends. And I think that's where the comparison ends. But anyway, so we stayed friends. And then when I moved out to LA, I got a call one day from Jerry and Larry. And I'm thinking, why are they calling me together? And they said, do you want to write for Seinfeld? And my inexperience was an advantage because they didn't want people who'd written for TV before, because especially Larry felt like people who'd written for TV before had poisoned the medium. And it was, bad stuff.
How many seasons did you write for Seinfeld?
3.
Okay, I got to remember to bring up a name to you because you're going to know this name.
Okay.
We'll play the Seinfeld tape.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
You tell us, because you're inside. You know the man. To set the table, there's an exotic Porsche that I own that Paul Newman raced at Le Mans. And it's a one-of-one car. I was at a Porsche event with Jerry. So were 10,000 other people, but I was there. And I was talking to Jerry, looking at his Porsche race cars that I brought there. And I'd asked him if he'd like to step over here 100 feet away and see my Porsche race car. And here's what's his answer.
Yeah. I talked with Adam Carolla.
Oh, yeah.
Who wanted me to see his Paul Newman 935, but it was so many people around and there was so much, interaction going on. It was kind of difficult for me to maneuver. And he kept pushing me. You've got to see my 935. I go, why? Why do I have to see it? What will happen in your mind that will be so great? Will it be me going, wow, cool car? And then what? Then nothing.
The big winter boot came down.
So you said, I'll just say it now.
The winter boot of reality.
You'll say, I'll say it now.
Yeah.
Nice car. It's a nice car.
Yeah, great. You're great.
But it is weird, isn't it? Kind of cool to me.
Oh.
Look, right over there. There's a 935.
I don't own that car anymore.
You don't?
No.
That car's been sold.
Sold.
That was the one out at Gooding, right?
That's
All
right.
right. So
Yeah,
he
and
had a
it's-
935.
Right. And
But-
he's on with Spike Feresten, who
Yeah.
also wrote for Seinfeld.
All right.
Yes.
What do you think? You know the man.
That seems to me to be a pretty standard response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Jerry.
Yeah, he just says it like it is, whatever he's thinking, whatever he's feeling, for better or worse. And there you go. But I do remember, Adam, at not Richard Lewis, at Bob Einstein's memorial. He
Yeah.
was on Curb.
Yeah. Super Dave. I was
yeah.
there.
Right. I know that because you went over to Jerry.
No, he came over to me.
He came over to you, okay. And you guys were talking about cars for, I think, a good amount of time. So doesn't that kind of balance out?
Well, that was weird because we were sitting in the back of, or I was sitting toward the back of Super Dave's memorial, and I was just standing there, and Jerry sort of made his way over to me to talk to me about, wasn't about cars. He wanted to talk about politics or something, or he'd seen something or something that I did, you know.
Okay.
So he made his way over to me. Now my impulse at the funeral would have been, oh, that's Seinfeld, but I I'm not going to bother him. I don't really know the guy, and other people were talking to him, and I have a recollection that you may have been right in that neighborhood too, and I was just sort of trying to stay in the back and not make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
But he came across, because I didn't move. I was just standing there, and he sort of came across to talk to me. So when I saw him at Rensport at the Porsche thing 5 years later, because this is only 6 months ago or whatever, I was like, oh, well, okay, Jerry, now that you know, I'm your best friend.
Yeah.
Come over here. Inconsistent, you're right. At the funeral, he came up to me. But when I came up to him at the Rensport, different.
Right. And I am surprised because he's so into cars and into Porsches that I would have thought immediately he would have, run to see your car.
So confusing to you, even someone who knows him as well as you.
Not really
Consistent.
confusing. Yeah. He just, like when I've been on the road with him and opened for him, a lot of people ask for his photo. And he'll just say, something along the lines of, oh, not today, but, can I give you a nice hello? That kind of thing. He just kind of, and it's just very clear and direct.
Yeah.
I think that's how he likes to be. And, he has earned that privilege, I think.
Okay. Now, I'm not hurt. But a name popped into my head.
Yeah.
As you were talking about writing for Seinfeld, and it's a name that pops into my head periodically. I think about this woman a lot because I have a very weird, kind of eerie and unique story with Marjorie Gross.
Wow. Marjorie Gross, yes.
You must know that name.
Oh, absolutely. We wrote the understudy together, the Bette Midler episode.
Oh, you did?
Yes. Marge Gross, one of the funniest stand-ups from Toronto.
She was on. The thing I was sitting here, and I think about her periodically because of the sort of have a history, an interesting history with her, and also she's made a lot of Letterman appearances as well. Probably not as many as you, but she was a stand-up who did Letterman. And so we were kind of talking about Letterman, and then we were talking about Seinfeld. And I remembered she wrote on Seinfeld, and then I remember there probably wasn't a ton of ladies writing on Seinfeld. Like, you guys would know each other for sure.
Absolutely.
So you wrote the Bette Midler episode for Seinfeld together with Marjorie.
Yes. Well, I'm interested to hear about your history with Marjorie.
Yeah. Wasn't romantic.
Okay.
Because I don't think she rolled that way.
No, she dove into the lady pond.
Mm-hmm. My history with Marjorie Gross is I was working as a carpenter, and I got on to some sort of celebrity assistant list where the celebrities, the assistants for celebrities would have a network. Like they would talk. Like they do that now where they go, the assistant, the writer's assistant has like these networks where they do. Okay.
But how did you have it back then when there was no social media, no computers?
I say this all the time when I was in junior high, I heard a story that Rod Stewart had to get his stomach pumped because he had a gallon of semen in it. And they go, yeah. I go, I lived in North Hollywood. Where'd you live? And they go, Brattleboro, Vermont. And I go, do you remember that story? They go, yes, I do. And I go, well, how the fuck did that happen in 1978?
Yeah.
How did the Rod Stewart story get to Brattleboro, Vermont?
Exactly.
And to North Hollywood?
No explanation. Or the Richard Gere gerbil story. How did that make its way?
How? And then you start singing the dumb spoof songs about, the Beverly Hillbillies theme where it got Aunt Ellie pregnant or whatever it is. And you're like, how do you know that song? Because you grew up in North Dakota.
Yeah.
So that's how it worked.
Yeah.
Stuff would go viral before anything.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
So there was some sort of assistant, Underground Railroad or something of who they knew. And once the word got out that I was a good carpenter and I was nice and I didn't steal and, I cleaned up after myself, I started getting calls from like Scott Baio's assistant.
Oh, wow.
Katie Seagal it worked at her house, And so I get the Marjorie Gross call. I don't remember how.
That's so
but
funny.
Somehow connected to these other people. At least that's my recollection. She found out about me being a carpenter.
Okay.
And she just moved into the West Side. She got a little Spanish bungalow on the West Side. She bought her it was like her first house or something. And she was writing for Seinfeld and she was living sort of behind, as it strikes me, kind of behind where like Dan Tana's is or something, somewhere in that neighborhood on the West Side.
Yeah.
And she wanted me to build her an entertainment unit when people had big TVs and VCR drawers and tapes and stuff. I built some entertainment units.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a thing, like entertainment unit. Have the big cutout for the TV in the center and all the racks and everything. And I was going to her house, working on these projects at her house, when I heard about the boxing match that Kevin and Bean on K-Rock were having, where Jimmy Kimmel was involved, that ended up getting me into show business.
Oh, okay.
I showed up at her house
in
the morning after listening to it on the radio, and I said, can I use your phone to call the radio station?
Wow.
So
this story would be very bad if she said no.
I didn't have a cell phone, and I needed to call. And I was in my truck listening to it on the way over, going, "Oh man, I got to call the station and tell them that I'm a boxing trainer." And it's a long story. She said, "Yeah, I use the phone." I called, it was busy, or leave a message or whatever. And I started talking to her, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm a write for Seinfeld and so forth." And I was like, "Oh man, you're living my dream because I'm driving a truck and I'm a carpenter, but I want to get into comedy and I can't." Like, what a great gig writing for Seinfeld. You bought your own house. I got an apartment with 3 roommates and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And so she was nice, and I remember she liked hockey and was Canadian.
Big hockey fan. Yep.
And I finished the project and whatever, I move on to the next gig. And then probably 2 years later, maybe less, 2 or 3 years, I don't remember, my manager So now I'm in show business.
Yeah, you had
now,
a manager.
I got into show business.
Okay.
Right after I met her.
Yeah.
And I became successful.
Mm-hmm.
And my manager calls me in his office and he goes, hey, I got a call from Marjorie Gross's brother.
Okay.
And I said, yeah. And I said, he said, he found a check made out to Adam Carolla for $1,300.
Oh my God.
And her belongings because she died of ovarian cancer.
She did die of ovarian cancer.
Right after I was saying, boy, what a life.
Yes,
you know, boy, I wish I
yes.
could switch places with you, you know.
Yeah.
She died.
She hadn't paid you for your...
She paid me, and this guy went through her canceled checks. He was going through her belongings.
Uh-huh.
And he's going through, her brother is going through her belongings after she passes.
Mm-hmm.
And he's looking at a check to Adam Carolla, who he knows from TV. Because now I'm on TV.
Right.
And he's like, why would my daughter write this other comedian actor
my sister,
guy, sorry, my sister,
Uh-huh.
for $1,300? What is she paying Adam Carolla for? Like jokes or something?
Yeah.
And I had to explain I was being paid as a carpenter.
Yeah.
And it was so close to me being a carpenter and being in the show business. In this small little window, she died quickly. And I was always stuck with me. I always went, God, see, life.
I know.
Life is tricky.
But here's the beautiful thing about working with Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David on Seinfeld. Marge was diagnosed with cancer while she was working at Seinfeld and going through chemo. And they put a cot in her office so that when she needed to, she could take some downtime and rest or sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were just that nice of guys. And Bette Midler doing the episode of Seinfeld that we wrote, it's hard to think of a time when Seinfeld was not the mega hit it became. And we needed a celebrity to play the celebrity that's in the softball league with the comics.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, we went out. I remember being on the phone with Liza Minnelli and trying to get her to do this part. And she was like, it's not, you don't use me enough. I have to pass because you don't use me enough. And then we reached out to Bette Midler. And Bette Midler knew Marge from the old days in New York when she was starting out in cabarets.
Wow.
And she said, and she heard that Marge was diagnosed with cancer. And she said, I'm going to come out and do it for Marge.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was very loved, Marge. She was funny as fuck. I swear to God, I don't know if I've met a woman since who's as funny as Marge. But that is a crazy memory you have.
Well, it was seared in because I was like, I literally used her phone to get me into show business.
Yeah.
And number one. Number two, I thought she was on top of the world, and then she was dead.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in a very short period of time after that,
Yes.
and then I was in show business when she passed, and I periodically think of her, and I just go, I think she died. I don't know, 42. I don't know, young.
Yeah, I think it was about that, or maybe even 40.
Young, and was Seinfeld up and still going when she died?
Yeah.
Was she there?
Yeah, absolutely.
So she was like season what through?
She was. She came after me. I think she was season 6.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, she was. That was the year that she passed away.
I know where I was. It was 94 for me. It was like April 94. And I didn't know if she was sick then or not.
Yeah.
So now we got to find out, when did she
pass?
When
I think
did
it was
she
96.
Pass, because she must have just started at Seinfeld when I met Marjorie.
Maybe.
June 7th, 96, so the middle of 96, and I sort of met her in the middle of 94.
Right.
So she must have been there for a couple seasons or something.
Yeah. But don't you think about that a lot? I mean, that's why her memory is seared into your brain, because you made that call, and that was like this one call that led you on this path. That's crazy. And I think about that with going to an open mic night and, Jerry Seinfeld being the MC and putting me through. You think of these seminal moments in a career that if that hadn't happened, what would have happened?
Right. And then there's people whose car breaks down and the person that picks them up is a serial killer. And it's like, well, that's a bit of luck or serendipity in the other direction.
That's the other side. Yes. I mean, it's crazy. I don't know if you know the story of how Paul Reiser got Diner. Barry Levinson's
Sure.
movie.
Love that movie.
He went with another comic. His name was Adam Carolla. They were going to go, I swear to God, to buy underwear or something at Gimbel's. He was like, you want to come with me? Sure. And then Adam was like, oh, I got to stop and do this audition for this movie. You want to come? And I was like, sure. And he's sitting in the lobby, blah, blah, blah. And Adam did his reading, and then he came out, and the casting director was like, oh, you want to read? And he was like, Paul was like, sure. You give me the sides, and I'll read. And then he gets Diner.
Wow.
It's like crazy.
Diner, I don't want to say underrated, underutilized or something. Doesn't get the spins it should get on cable.
Yes.
Star-studded, Mickey Rourke, Daniel Stern, Kevin Bacon, everyone when they're young, crazy, funny.
Ellen Barkin,
Gutenberg. Oh, they're all the young version of everyone is there. Funny cast, funny writing, funny everything, and should be seen. And people kind of miss it. They don't. It's not on their list or what have you. But
you're right. It doesn't. When you're scrolling through the channels, it doesn't seem to pop up as much as Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah, or Made to Order or something, or Made in Manhattan or whatever.
Is on an endless loop
all
on
these
cable.
Shit rom-coms are just never ending. With Kate Hudson is back with Matthew, and it's like, yeah, but show this.
No Diner, I know.
Agreed. All right, let me give you a plug, my dear. I'm glad I remembered the Marjorie Gross.
I am too.
Story.
Because it's such a kooky, strange story, but it's amazing that you remember her and what it led to.
Well, it's weird that I saw her in the middle of 94 and she died in the middle of 96, and somehow in those 2 years I'd gone from guy driving a pickup truck building people cabinets to on MTV every night.
Amazing.
Insanely.
Yes.
I wasn't even close to that, and it just happened that one little period.
Right. And using the phone. You know how many people would have been like, this fucking construction guy wants to eat. No, get to work. Let's go. There's the hammer, there's the wood, start building.
They don't supply the hammer and the wood. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I bring my own tools. No, I walked out of my truck and left all my stuff in my truck and walked in and went, can I use the phone? Like I wasn't halfway into anything. I came up the driveway and it's like, I need to use the phone. She's like, in the kitchen. I'm like, I got to call the radio station.
Very, very gracious and very kind of her. And very ambitious of you to want to make a call while you were about to go to work.
Yeah. Well, it all worked out.
Yes. Well, I think you were in the middle of a plug.
Yes, the plug. How to write a funny speech. This is important. It can make or break an event, people. And that is out as we speak. And there's dates.
March 11th. Yeah, it's coming out. Yeah,
sorry,
I have dates. Stand-up dates.
Wait, let me make sure I got the date. March 11th, it's coming out.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Uh-huh.
All right. And dates.
Mm-hmm.
Hermosa Beach coming up.
Right, Comedy and Magic Club.
Yep.
March 20.
Going to be in Virginia?
Mm-hmm. Barnes of Wolf Trap.
Oh, in Vienna, Virginia. Wow.
Yes.
And you should go to Carol. Wow, it's weird when I see your name. Leifer, it's almost my last name. Carol Leifer, and that's Leifer.
Yeah, spell it correctly when you come see me.
Is where you go for dates. And about the book, March 11th, book's coming up. Pre-order.
Yeah,
pre-order it now.
And people need this book. And as you can see, it's very handy. It's very short. You'll learn everything you need to know step by step. We have templates. If you're lazy, we have templates. You can just plug in what you need to give the best speech of your life. It's a great gift, and it's only $16.95.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to be doing dates. Phoenix, Desert Ridge Improv, doing stand-up Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Bunches of shows. Some tickets left. So come on out and say hi. Go to adamcarolla.com for that. Until next time, it's Adam for Elon and Carol saying mahalo.